Part 101. Alien Relic Hunter. Author, Chen-Mi-san. Chapter 1041. Before Soap and Noir could continue to ask questions, a subtle but clear click sound suddenly came from above their heads, and the next second, a few broken concrete particles fell on their heads and shoulders. Soap immediately shined the flashlight directly above, and saw many small cracks in the reinforced concrete roof. Some pale roots emerged from the cracks and quickly spread to the surroundings. Come. These slender roots look very fragile, as if they will break if pinched with your fingers, but as they grow, they burst out with amazing strength and toughness. Soap watched helplessly as a piece of concrete was destroyed by the roots. Wrapped up, crushed to pieces. All high-grade super hard concrete is used here. A 10mm caliber Type 01 rifle hitting it can only make craters as deep as a few fists at most. To crush it, the force required is extremely terrifying, but in front of these pale roots, concrete is as vulnerable as soft sand. Even the steel bars wrapped inside the concrete have been completely deformed. This was not caused by the earthquake, but was forcibly bent by the pull of the roots. Good guy, is this, a mutated plant? Soap murmured. Clown, you just said it's not a monster, what do you mean? I think the scope of monsters should also include plants, right? I mean, this thing is not a monster in the underground maze. The clown took 2 steps back warily. Although the expression on his face wrapped in a scarf could not be seen, through his eyes under the sunglasses, but you can see that his eyes are full of fear. Isn't it a monster in the underground labyrinth? Do you know this thing? Noir couldn't help but ask. What should we do now? Ling it to the ground like other monsters. Soap took over the words. As soon as he finished the first half of the sentence, he immediately shook his head. No. The plant can't move, and you can't lure it even if you want to. No, it was not the clown who spoke, but Noir. He patted Soap on the shoulder with a serious face. The fact that its root system appears here means that its body is already on the ground. The resting position chosen by the 4 people is only 2 or 3 meters deep from the ground. Based on the area occupied by the roots, the body of this plant is definitely not small, at least more than 10 meters high. Then most of its torso must have been exposed to the ground. Soap was startled for a moment, then nodded blankly. No wonder, the clown said this thing is not a monster in the underground labyrinth, so don't we need to worry about it? Anyway, the more trouble this thing will cause, the more trouble it will cause. The more beneficial it is to us. This thing is part of Zeus' plan. To him, it is not a trouble. The clown's voice became extremely cold. He has spent decades cultivating this thing. Now, the seeds have finally sprouted. What? Is this plant planted by that bastard Zeus? What is his purpose? Soap said in shock. At this moment, a few pale roots slowly extended to him as if sensing something. Less than half a meter away in front of me. Naturally, Soap wouldn't let these roots touch him, but just when he pulled out his dagger and wanted to cut off these roots, the clown grabbed his collar and pulled him 10 years back. A few steps away. What are you doing? Being dragged out so violently by the clown, Soap was a little confused. I know that thing can't be touched, but you don't have to be so careful, right? The clown didn't say anything, he just took the dagger in Soap's hand and threw it hard towards the roots. The force of the clown's throwing was extremely fast, and the tip of the dagger even made a whistling sound as it cut through the air. Soap had no doubt that at this momentum, the dagger would be directly nailed into the opposite metal pipe wall, leaving only the knife behind. Until the handle is exposed. However, just when the dagger brushed against those roots, the seemingly fragile white roots were like poisonous snakes attacking. Several of them shot out at the same time, instantly capturing the dagger, flying at high speed in mid-air and holding it tightly. The ground was entangled. The next second, the dagger, which was made of tungsten alloy and mixed with a little nano alloy, turned into dozens of metal fragments, scattered on the ground with a clatter. Mom, Damn, Soap couldn't help but widen his eyes. What the hell kind of monster is this? Although he already knew that the power of these roots was terrifying, he did not expect that the other party had such fast reaction and speed. His heart could not help but be filled with fear. If the clown had not pulled away from him just now, but allowed himself to swing if the dagger was struck, these roots would probably cut him into pieces together with the dagger. What on earth is this? Noir also took a breath of cold air, looked around subconsciously, and distanced himself from these growing roots. You seem to know this thing very well, can you reveal some information to us? I can only tell you that when this plant is completely mature, it will turn the all the materials on the entire planet into its nutrients. Is it so exaggerated? Zhao Yao bared his teeth. Then what is the purpose of Zeus? According to you, wouldn't he himself become the nourishment of this thing? He doesn't care about this thing. He just wants to dedicate everything to that existence, that is, the great god mentioned by the heretical section. This plant is the carrier of the sacrificial ceremony. I can even assert that Zeus has become one with it at this time, the clown said. We were still a step too slow and failed to stop him before then. Is this thing really that scary? Is there any way to destroy it? Soap asked. If you want to destroy it, you have to do it as soon as possible. Its growth potential is unlimited. It will first devour everything on the ark, and then penetrate its roots into the earth of Alpha Planet. While absorbing the material of this planet as nutrients, it will also drive Alpha Star out of its orbit to impact and engulf other celestial bodies in this galaxy, and its ultimate target is the stars in this galaxy, clown said. Before it takes root into Alpha Star, human means are still there. There is a chance to destroy it, but after its roots penetrate deep into the core of the Earth, it becomes a part of Alpha Star. In other words, Alpha Star becomes a part of it. If you want to destroy it, you must destroy it. Drop the entire Alpha Star. Because experimental subject number 1197 broke through containment, Kaylan was not able to see the second half of the second trial procedure. However, in the historical documents of Alpha Civilization, the Crown of Ashes incident is recorded in detail. Engraved on a stone tablet stored in an underground ice house. At the beginning, Alpha Civilization indeed sent hundreds of blasphemer mechas equipped with annihilation bombs to the asteroid Ashes. According to the estimation of Alpha scientists, among 100 blasphemer mechas, as long as there are 15 aircraft that can reach the root system of the Crown of Ashes, set up annihilation bombs and detonate them, can destroy the Crown of Ashes. As for Ian's trial, it was designed based on this task. In fact, the number of blasphemer mechas that reached the root system of the Crimson Crown far exceeded expectations. A full 50 blasphemer mechas broke through numerous obstacles, penetrated deep into the root system of the Crimson Crown, and set annihilation bombs on target location. These target positions were also obtained through rigorous calculations. Alpha Civilization paid a huge price to scan the data of the entire Ash asteroid and Ash Crown, and established a precise model. These places where annihilation is set are basically the intersections of the most dense roots of the Crown of Ashes. If the Crown of Ashes were compared to humans, these places are equivalent to the heart and aorta, except that the heart and aorta transport blood and ashes. The Crown's root system transports energy and materials absorbed from the asteroid's core. As long as these places are blown up, the overflowing frenzied energy will cause secondary damage. Just like a bomb exploding, the annihilation bomb is just a fuse, and the huge energy contained in the Crown of Ashes is what the Alpha people really want. That big bomb to go off. 50 annihilation bombs were successfully detonated at the target location, and all the warriors who set up the bombs were sacrificed. As the scientists calculated, the Crown of Ashes was completely disrupted by the annihilation bombs. The internal energy cycle was completely disrupted, and earth-shattering events occurred. Self-destruct. The self-destruction lasted for 6 hours, and the Ember Crown was completely turned into ashes in the literal sense. However, before the Alphas could start celebrating, A new ember crown was created from the big hole left by the burning of the previous one. It grew inside. The two fleets responsible for towing the Ashes asteroid were swallowed up by the suddenly accelerating asteroid in an instant. In just 30 minutes, the newly born Ashes crown grew to the size of 50% of the size of the destroyed one. At this time, Alpha realized one thing: Ash asteroid and Ash crown were actually the same thing. In desperation, Alpha civilization could only activate the backup plan and use star-killing weapons to completely destroy the entire Ashes asteroid. Kaylan didn't know about these things, and very few people in the undead crew knew about it. That stone tablet was sealed as the highest secret, and the only people who had seen it were the Fool and the stone tablet that was discovered by the Ruins Hunter at that time. At that time, Zeus was responsible for related handover matters. When relic hunters discover valuable relics in the ruins of the Alpha civilization, they have two options. One is to sell it to the Ark official, the other is to sell it to a non-governmental organization. Of course, the Ark official can also bid with the non-governmental organization, and if the price is the same under such circumstances, the official has the right of priority to acquire. However, this only refers to ordinary relics. Almost 99% of documentary relics such as stone tablets engraved with Alpha characters have been seized by the authorities, and less than 1% have been seized through various gray channels. Flowed into the people. After the documentary relics are officially acquired, there will be a mysterious identification procedure. This identification procedure is only known to the Undead Crew Club, and the content is also very simple, which is to let the symbiote with the ability to read the language of Alpha civilization a simple translation of the document content. After it is determined that the document content does not involve important secrets and will not lead to erosion and spread, it will be thrown to the research team of the Institute for Research. Once a document-type relic is characterized as a dangerous item or a core secret, after that, it will be sealed immediately, and even the people in the Institute will not have a chance to take a look. Since this identification procedure requires the use of shady humanoid consumables such as symbiotes, the entire process must be personally supervised by members of the Undead Crew. This stone tablet recording the Crown of Ashes incident was when it was delivered. The person responsible for supervising it that day happened to be Zeus. I'm afraid that at that time, Zeus had already had this idea in his heart. The clown murmured to himself, assuming that he had been corroded by that time. 4 years later, in the year 917 of the new era, he formed an army and went to the ruins to retrieve the genetic sample of the Crown of Ashes. It was probably during that time that his erosion level exceeded the critical value. "What are you talking to yourself about?" Soap couldn't help but ask. "It's nothing." The clown shook his head. "I just feel a little pity." "What's the pity?" "My memory is not complete. There are too many gaps in it. It is difficult for me to recall the full response plan I made before. I can only follow the steps I remember and implement them step by step, but in the end even I don't know what the result will be." The clown's tone sounded very strange. His eyes were fixed on the roots that were still growing and spreading, and his lips were slightly buzzing, as if he was saying something. But Soap and the others could only hear the first few sentences, and the following content was completely inaudible. "The memory is incomplete." "Have you lost your memory?" Soap narrowed his eyes and looked the clown up and down. "Is it because of the sequelae of that kind of power?" "Amnesia? No, I have not lost my memory. My memory has been incomplete from the beginning. I just need to let myself know what I should know. Someone will complete the other parts," the clown said again. At this moment, a mutant centipede with a body length of more than 3 meters crawled out from a crack above the head, but before it could completely leave the crack, it was dragged back by an irresistible force. In the process of dragging it back, countless pale roots wrapped around its body. Before the mutated centipede was dragged into the crack again, its body was left with only a body full of holes. Empty shell. P.S. Thanks to Lao Li for the 8,800 starting coins rewarded by Chen Chen. P.P.S. In a few days, it will be time for the regular checkup every 6 months. I have to be hospitalized for bone marrow puncture again. I may take a leave by then, if the back pain is not obvious after the procedure and I can sit for a long time, then the update should not be interrupted. Please report it to everyone in advance. Alien Relic Hunter. Author, and Chenmi-san. Chapter 1042. Damn. Soap cursed repeatedly and took several steps back. When he turned around, he found that there were pale roots spreading behind him. "We can't stay here any longer," Noir said, "we have to leave here immediately. Run, run away quickly. Let's run away quickly." Even Ulrich, who was not in his right mind, was so impatient that he kept spinning in circles. "Then you should lead the way," Soap glared at Ulrich. "Without you leading the way, if we were left to wander around in the underground maze, we would probably die faster than if we bumped into these ghosts. I don't know where to go." As if trying to pull the non-existent hair, Ulrich's sharp nails scratched his scalp into bloody streaks. "Nowhere is safe. The danger, fear, it's everywhere." "You mean, the entire underground maze is occupied by these roots?" Noir raised his eyebrows. "Where is the nearest exit to the ground? Take us there." I don't know," Ulrich roared. He seemed to have lost the ability to detect road conditions. It may also be that the extremely heavy fear has suppressed him to the point where he can't calm down and look for it. "Way out." "You don't need him to lead the way," the clown suddenly said. "Haven't you noticed that since these roots invaded the underground maze, the entire maze has stopped functioning?" "It seems like this is still the case." Soap was startled for a moment, and then immediately said to Noir and Ulrich, "Why are you still standing there? Hurry up. Get to the ground first." "Fortress Mukake, General Maginot's office." "Then what should we do now?" "If we want to destroy this giant tree, we can only attack its root system, but its root system is hidden inside the ark and protected by an energy shield. This problem comes back," Maginot said tangledly. The fat on his face had been squeezed into a ball, especially between the eyebrows. Several layers of loose skin were stacked up. Sweat slid down along the folds and dripped on his raised buttocks. Above the belly. "To put it bluntly, our strategic goal has not changed from the beginning." Hound stared at the projection screen, flexing his fingers slightly and tapping gently on the back of the sofa rhythmically. "Whether it is to deal with the undead crew, it will end the corrosive, or blow up this damn tree, we have to break into the inside of the ark." "Ha, everything is back to square one." "No, the situation is completely different." Levi shook his head. "Even if we successfully broke into the ark, we still have no means to destroy this giant tree. If we follow Mr. K. Ian's description, this kind of alien planet, the vitality of plants may be far more tenacious than we imagine, and the total yield of nuclear warheads we have alone may not destroy it even if it is detonated at the root system." "Annihilation bombs, the Alphas used annihilation bombs to destroy the Crown of Ashes back then," Hound murmured, "but we have no place to get annihilation bombs now." "Wait, I have an idea." "What's the idea?" Maginot and Levi's attention was immediately attracted by the Hound. "Is the annihilation bomb essentially releasing the antimatter that was originally bound by the gravitational field? Anyway, I don't know much about this knowledge. You just need to tell me, if I give you enough antimatter, you create an annihilation bomb? It doesn't have to be too precise, as long as it can detonate smoothly and the explosion is powerful enough," Hound said quickly. Kaylan looked at Zi Luo. The Sanwoo girl nodded slightly. "Theoretically, yes. It's just that with the current technology of human civilization, it is impossible to create a container to store antimatter. Therefore, it is impossible to create a portable annihilation bomb like the Alpha civilization. But," Zi Luo changed the topic, "my space manipulation ability can create such a container. As long as I can find antimatter, I can bring it to the root system of the giant tree and then detonate it." After Zi Luo finished saying this, the words human bomb could not help but come to the minds of several of the elders present. Let such a girl who is too beautiful to be described in words act as a human bomb. Maginot and Levi couldn't help but show a trace of unbearability in their eyes. The latter's lips wriggled a few times, but after all he didn't speak. If you detonate those antimatter, you should be able to escape alive, right? Maginot asked. Both of them know that Ze-Ludo is very capable, but annihilation bombs are not ordinary things. The energy released when matter and antimatter interact can destroy almost everything. The space barrier can hold up pure antimatter, but when there is positive matter, when substances are mixed into it and start to react, even the space barrier may not be able to block it. This is like a bottle of soda. It is very stable when placed in the bottle. The soda itself will not cause any damage to the bottle. But if you throw a few Mentos mints into it and shake it vigorously a few times, then the situation is completely different. Damn fat man, how come you still learn to worry about the safety of others? I remember that you used to be the kind of person who would do whatever it takes to achieve your goals. Hound looked at him strangely. Do you still remember the blocking battle at Highland 963? At that time, you left an entire battalion of troops behind, and they fought until only the last man was left, without receiving your order to retreat. Although you were trying to ensure the safety of the baggage troops, if I did it instead, you are the commander of that battalion. Even if I become a ghost, I will come back to find you and kill you. That's just a drill. A drill? Maginot said angrily. You know, before I was transferred here, I had no actual combat experience at all. The drill to me is just a game of chess. When you play chess, you give up the outcome of the entire game because you care about the life and death of individual chess pieces. The current situation is not just a game of chess, Kaylan sighed in a low voice. Everyone here is a chess piece in the game. No one can jump out of this chessboard. If I could, I would really like to play now. The chess player sitting next to the chessboard slapped him twice. After Kaylan said this, he turned to look at Ze-Ludo and said, if this is the only way to break the situation, then we have no choice. Everyone seemed to see Ze-Ludo smiling, but it seemed to be just an illusion. Ze-Ludo still maintained the expressionless iceberg look. She turned her head, looked at Kaylan and said, I am talking about Chinese chess in a book. I read a sentence in a book, upon crossing a river will advance but not retreat, die but not live. But there is another old saying in China, which is put yourself to death and live again. Kaylan said, the choice is yours. You can go or not. Go. Ze-Ludo nodded. But there is still a question before us. Where are we going to find so much antimatter to make this annihilation bomb? Maginot said with a frown. Antimatter is readily available. Hound and Kaylan looked at each other, then snapped their fingers. Chief of Staff, please mark all the proven and well-preserved death ray cannons on the surface of Alpha Planet on the map. When they came out of the glacier ruins, the battleship carrying them was hit by a death ray cannon, which Hound and the others still remember, but later they realized that it was just the preview mode of the death ray cannon, not a real one at all. Fire! The real power of the death ray cannon, which uses antimatter as its shell, is far greater than that one cannon. In fact, that shot is only used to lock the target, just like the laser sight hung on the firearm. Before the gunman pulls the trigger and the bullet has not come out of the chamber, the temperature released by the laser sight has already, it's like burning the target paper. More than a dozen red dots are marked on the global map of Alpha Star. As an important part of Alpha Civilization's planetary defense system, there are more than 600 death ray cannons installed in every corner of Alpha Star. Even death ray cannon bases have been built on the islands and offshore platforms in the Middle Sea and on the ice caps of the Extreme Sea. It's just that until the disappearance of Alpha Civilization, this defense system was not fully completed. Of the more than 600 bases, less than 100 were equipped with the death ray cannon body, and most of them were damaged. The well-preserved death ray cannons of the light cannons, including the one that Kaylan and the others had experienced, there were only the last 17 left. These death ray cannons should still be able to fire, but it's unclear how much antimatter is stored inside. Levi said. If you want to measure the amount of antimatter in the death ray cannon, you must disassemble the core components of the cannon. For the Ark civilization that has not mastered space technology, this is undoubtedly a very dangerous job. No, it is dangerous to say so. To put it mildly, to be precise, this is a matter of seeking death. There was once a research team from a research institute that tried to dismantle a death ray cannon in the wilderness. As a result, the research team was gone, and the death ray cannon was gone as well. In the place where the death ray cannon was originally, there were more. A very regular hemispherical pit with a depth of 2,000 meters and a radius of 2,000 meters. According to the Institute's later estimates, the amount of antimatter in the death ray cannon should be very small. Otherwise, even a military base 15 kilometers away might not be able to survive the damage. Now the mission is divided into two parts. Kaylan turned around and said to everyone, I took Ze-Logo to collect the remaining antimatter from the death ray cannons in various locations, while the others tried to find ways to tear open the defense gaps in the Ark and create a passage that allows Ze-Logo to enter. This sentence may sound light and airy, but in fact everyone here knows how difficult it is. None of the reconnaissance teams sent to the Ark have returned. Not only is the energy shield outside the Ark difficult to break through, inside the Ark, murderous intent is probably everywhere at this time. We will try our best. Maginot gritted his teeth and said in a deep voice, even if we use corpses to pave it, we must pave this passage. Levi wanted to say something, but something suddenly came from the headphones he was wearing, causing his expression to change several times. What's wrong with you, Levi? Maginot immediately noticed the look on his very new subordinate's face and asked, did any bad news come back from the forward observation post? I don't know if this news is good or bad. Levi shook his head. He first looked at Maginot, and then focused his attention on Kaylan. The forward observation post closed. We arrived at a piece of cipher text, which was transmitted from inside the Ark, using our internal secret frequency band. What is the content of the secret text? The Hound jumped up from the sofa in an instant and asked excitedly, almost rushing up to grab Levi's collar and questioning him. Undecipherable, Levi said with a look of embarrassment. Our intelligence department has been busy for half an hour and has not been able to decipher this cipher text. Its encryption method is not any known to us. Damn it, you mean that the forward observation post received this coded message from the Ark half an hour ago? Then why didn't you report it? If you find that you can't decipher it, you should report it immediately. Those idiots in the intelligence department don't even understand this. Don't you understand? The Hound cursed angrily. Send me the secret text. Kaylan was not as angry as a hound. He sat down on the sofa and moved the laptop on the coffee table to his knees. The content of the cipher text was quickly sent to Ian's computer. Kaylan only hesitated for a few seconds before his fingers quickly started typing on the keyboard. In less than 5 minutes, the content of the cipher text was cracked. It was a picture filled with strange characters. This is the text of Alpha civilization. The Hound only glanced at it and immediately whispered. What's the content? Maginot stared at Kaylan with burning eyes. Among all the people present, only Kaylan had the ability to decipher the Alpha civilization text. It's a warning, or a reminder, Kaylan said. Someone told me that the root system of the giant tree has begun to spread, and it will penetrate the bottom of the Ark and penetrate into the Earth of Alpha planet in 12 hours. By then, the giant tree will be integrated with the entire Alpha star, and the only way to destroy it is to destroy the entire Alpha star. What does this person mean? We only have the last 12 hours left. Hound was stunned, then punched the sofa cushion hard. Damn, I almost forgot, wasted by those idiots. It lasted half an hour, and the time left for us now should be 11.5 hours. Is this an ultimatum? Maginot murmured. Is this the undead crew declaring victory to us in advance? No, this news should have come from one of our own. Kaylan shook his head. There are also our friendly forces on the Ark. PS Thanks to book friend 202211201847344539 for the 100 starting coins. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Alien Relic Hunter, author, and Chen-Mi-san. Chapter 1043. Inside the Ark, West 5th District, Liverpool Electrical Street. Although this street is named Electronic Street, anyone familiar with it knows that it is actually an underground black market with an extremely profound background. Many shops that look small, old, and messy have a lot of goods that are legally prohibited from being bought and sold deep in the warehouses. Some of these items come from the military's standard equipment, and some are relics from the Alpha civilization. Generally speaking, Ark's underground black markets are built in areas with lower serial numbers. The West 5th District is already considered a quite prosperous quasi-rich area, and the security level is higher than that of blocks with two-digit serial numbers. I don't know how much, as the opposite of Ark's order, gray areas like the black market should not appear in this kind of place. But Liverpool Electrical Street just breaks this common sense. Between rows of tall buildings, this shabby little street existing in the cracks of the bustling business district looks out of place with everything around it, just like an old. It is the same as those urban villages on Epic Earth that have not had time to be demolished due to various reasons. Why do we come here? Soap whispered. If you want weapons, you should go to Atlanta in the West 10th District. There are more supplies and a richer variety. The Atlanta Soap talks about is also an underground black market, located in a tower-shaped building in the West 10th District. Atlanta Flea Exchange Market is its official name on the surface, but privately, mercenaries and relic hunters are more. I like to call it armed nation. The part above the ground of Atlanta is a second-hand trade market that operates according to rules, but after the 3 underground floors, it instantly turns into an arms market filled with the smell of gun oil and gunpowder, with all kinds of legal, illegal, and civilian products. Military standard weapons, or heavy weapons whose power standards exceed the limits of Ark, can all be found here. For people in these special professions, this place is equivalent to the Halen home of the equipment industry. Even many new models of firearms that have not been officially released or installed in the army will flow here through some inexplicable channels. Stealing the listing. As for Liverpool Electrical Street, arms trading rarely occurs. After all, in the West 5th District, arms trading is still too sensitive and easily resisted by local residents. Most of the people who can live in the West 5th District are. There are some people with strong backgrounds, and there are some people who are not easy to offend. Therefore, most of the goods traded in Liverpool Electrical Street, even illegal items, are not dangerous. But this refers to danger in the narrow sense. The clown found a small shop that didn't even have a signboard. He casually pulled away the garbage piled at the door and walked straight into the depths. Soap turned his head and looked at the high-rise buildings not far away. Those pale roots were already wrapped around these expensive buildings. The roots that were originally not much thicker than hair had grown to be thicker than Soap's thigh. The thickest taproots are more than 1 meter in diameter, running across the building like a giant python. Fortunately, at least there are no such ghosts on this street, Soap muttered and followed the clown in. Noir and Ulrich stayed outside to watch, while Clown and Soap walked through the shop and walked all the way to the warehouse door on the back street. What are you looking for? Soap couldn't help but ask again. A communications device, the clown replied. Communication device? Isn't the communication device useless here? A communication device produced by Alpha civilization, which can break through the signal shielding field of the Ark, the clown explained. This set of relics once sold for a high price of 16 million credits, but after the auction ended he disappeared unexpectedly. The accidental disappearance was actually just a cover, a show played by the seller to cooperate with the auction house in order to ensure the safety of the things. Then this thing ended up here. Soap turned around and glanced at the dilapidated shop. 16 million, If all the items in this store are added up, including the store and land, I'm afraid it won't even be a fraction of this number. None. There are many treasures buried in those piles of things that you think are garbage. Just one piece is enough for an ordinary person to have enough food and clothing for a lifetime, the clown said casually. Really or not, Soap glanced at the piles of garbage in the clown's mouth with some greed, swallowed, and suppressed the desire to go back and search. In fact, he knew very well, under the premise of the collapse of civilized society, no matter how valuable something is, if it is of no use to you, it is just a piece of garbage. There is a saying circulating in the investment field called antiques in prosperous times and gold in troubled times. It is only in times of peace and prosperity that art collections such as antiques have higher room for appreciation. However, in times of war, hard currency such as gold is the most valuable thing. As for now, it can no longer be described as troubled times. It's almost the end of the world. Gold is not only currency, but also a precious industrial material. However, without processing methods, gold in the end of the world is not as useful as food, weapons, and medicine. It can neither be eaten nor used to treat injuries and diseases. It's not good for making weapons, gold is too flexible, and the blade made of it can't even penetrate nylon fabrics with a slightly higher denier number. Found it? The clown rummaged around in the warehouse, and then pushed out a piece of equipment covered by an oilcloth from a corner. Soap stepped forward, lifted the oilcloth, and a machine similar to a precision lathe appeared in front of him. What is this? Is it used to process equipment? Soap looked confused. Are you planning to make a communication device yourself? No, this is the communication device I was talking about, the clown said. It is powerful enough to penetrate the shielding field of the Ark and send messages to people outside. Are you planning to tell the people at Muka Fortress about the situation here? Soap said suddenly. Time is running out. In 12 hours at most, the root system of that thing will penetrate the bottom of the Ark and penetrate into the Earth of Alpha Star. By then, everything will be too late, the clown said. I have already calculated Zeus would do this, but what I didn't expect was that his plan would be implemented so smoothly and quickly. The other members of the immortal crew, their erosion was far greater than I expected. What exactly is the degree of erosion? You mentioned this word more than once. Soap asked, does it refer to the degree to which someone's brain is brainwashed by that god? Can I understand it this way? Absolutely, the clown glanced at Soap and said, a very rare joke. You don't look very smart, but you are quite savvy at this time. Soap was at a loss for words and stared for a long time before asking, speaking of which, if we spread the news, does that mean our mission is completed? We should be able to find a way to grease the soles of our feet and escape, right? You can choose to leave, but I still have to go to the core area, the clown said. I must do everything possible to buy time for the other person. Looking at the clown busy around the communication equipment, Soap gritted his teeth and said, forget it, damn it, without you here, we can't leave the Ark alive, or if we think more clearly, even if we can escape to the wilderness. If you fail, we will still have a few days to live. Anyway, we are all going to die, so why not give it a last try? Even if you die, at least you can leave your name in history. Don't you care about your posthumous name? The clown asked. It's all death. Then I would rather be called a hero than be a deserter who is ridiculed, especially since this deserter didn't manage to escape alive. Damn Zeus, damn monster, damn gods, I really want to shove the barrel of the gun down their throats, Soap said bitterly. I have to tell you first, even if you die, there is a high probability that no one will remember you. If you want to be a hero, you will only be an unknown hero. The clown opened a cover on the side of the communication device, revealing a user interface to place the grooves for energy crystals. You'd better stop pouring cold water on me. While my mind is racing now, if there's anything you want me to do, tell me immediately. If I calm down, I might change my mind, Soap said. Go and break the safes in several stores around here. the clown said. What? Soap picked his ears, and he almost thought he heard wrongly. Are you going to rob the treasury of these stores? The shops here don't use bearer credit cards as currency at all. Their transactions are either barter, or they use equivalent precious metals or energy crystals as hard currency. Among them, energy crystals are the most valuable, so there are usually some high-quality energy crystals hidden in the safes of these stores. I need you to collect all these crystals. The more the better, the higher the quality the better. Okay, wait a minute, this thing is activated by crystal? Then when we send information to the outside world, won't it be detected by Zeus? The clown said with a frown. Yes, and because the signal strength is very strong, almost the entire ark can detect our position. It's like lighting a torch in a dark night, the clown said truthfully. Moreover, breaking through the shielding field, sending the information process needs to last 10 to 15 minutes, and during this time, it cannot be interrupted. We have to stay here for 15 minutes to block any living creatures that want to approach this device. Okay, I understand. Soap took a deep breath, nodded vigorously, turned around and walked out. 10 minutes later, he returned to the warehouse with a large bag of energy crystals on his back. He took out the crystals from the backpack one by one and placed them on the ground. Damn, these shops are really rich. I have never even touched energy crystals of this level before, Soap cursed while taking it. Aren't you afraid? The clown asked. You may die in the battle later. Afraid, scared to death, so I have to say a few more words while I'm still alive, but I won't have the chance to say it after I die, Soap muttered. Do you remember the giraffe? That guy, it's probably cool now, but do you know how I met him? How did we meet? The clown did not stop working. As long as it did not affect the progress of the task, he did not mind listening to other people's stories. At that time, hey, forget it, let's not talk about it. I guess there won't be enough time to finish it. Soap waved his hands a little irritably. I'd better wait until I die to go to hell to talk to my old friend about some things. I'm not a good person, and I will definitely go to hell when I die. Don't you believe in God? The clown asked. It's just an analogy. If you tell me that after death, everything disappears and there is nothing, then I would find it a bit abstract. To be honest, I don't know what it is like after death. You said, do humans have such a thing as a soul? It depends on how you define soul, the clown said. Human consciousness, under certain conditions, can exist alone without the body. If you accept this statement, then the soul exists. Then after I die, will my soul still wander around the world like a lonely ghost? No. What Zeus wants to sacrifice to that god is not only the bodies of all humans, but more importantly, their souls. The clown shook his head. Human bodies, even if they are hundreds of millions or trillions, are not worth it. To that god, they are just insignificant organic matter. But human souls are the nourishment that he needs most. Damn, you can't even let go of the soul. Soap squeezed his fist hard. It seems that this time, there is really no way out. Are you planning to activate this device now? Then I'll go outside, go and guard it for you. Yeah, the clown nodded. Don't worry, Noir, I've already told him that he will defend until the last moment. As for Urich, I don't know if he understands what he said. Soap picked up the gun and walked towards the door of the store. In 3 minutes, our position will be exposed, the clown said softly, and Soap, who was gradually walking away, did not hear the second half of his words. This is the torch lit in the dark night. The flame the light emitted will illuminate everyone who is dormant in the darkness and unwilling to give in. And you are the ones holding the torch. You will burn out together with the torch and become the first light to guide others. He filled the energy crystal into the groove and then gently pressed the start button. Alien Relic Hunter. Author, Chen-Mi-san. Chapter 1044. When the antenna of this communication equipment was fully opened, a circle of ripples that could not be detected by the naked eye centered on it and spread in all directions. The first torch in the dark night was lit. Soap, who was holding a gun, had just walked to the door of the store. As if he sensed something, he turned back and glanced in the direction of the warehouse, and exhaled a strong breath. He tried to get rid of the messy thoughts in his mind, but his thoughts spread out completely uncontrollably. I should die, right? Facing the siege of those men in black, it's impossible to defend with just the four of us. The clown may have a chance to survive, but Noir, and that Urich, he will definitely die. No, our mission does not need to persist for too long. It only takes 15 minutes for the clown to send the message, and it will be considered a success. To trade one's own life for a piece of news, I didn't expect that this kind of plot, which is often played out in novels and movies, would actually appear in my own body. I don't want to die, but it seems like there is no chance of living. The soapy thumb pad gently rubbed the anti-slip pattern on the rifle grip. The polymer grip has a temperature similar to human body temperature due to being held tightly for a long time, and the cold metal receiver above it a sharp contrast. After a person dies, it won't take long for the body to become cold like this, right? Hearing the footsteps behind him, Noir, who was guarding the door, turned around, made an okay gesture to Soap, and said, "Booby traps have been laid out at several street intersections around. Although they are not very powerful, they are if there is a living creature approaching, you can at least get a warning in advance." Yes, Soap nodded. The clown has probably started the machine now, for 15 minutes, as long as we can hold on for 15 minutes, then we can find a way to escape. 15 minutes, have you thought about the retreat route after the transmission is completed? Noir asked. I never thought about it. Soap originally wanted to say that there was no need to consider the issue of retreat, because they would not survive that time, but after hesitating for a moment, he swallowed the second half of the sentence and changed his words. I forgot, I'm too lazy to think about it now. Me too. Noir shook his head. I'm just a soldier. I just need to follow orders. Let me plan my own action plan. I don't have that ability. Noir, can you trust that clown guy? Soap asked. Obviously he is also that kind of monster, but I always feel that he can be trusted. Obviously he is unwilling to reveal any important information to us. But I still think what he is doing is right and meaningful. Damn it, sometimes I wonder if he has brainwashed me by some unknown means. Who else can we trust besides him? Noir shrugged. At this time, his face showed an indifferent expression. We have also seen the current situation of the Ark, except for the wilderness. Apart from those people on board, I'm afraid we are the only survivors here. As for those men in black, do you think they can still be considered human beings? Soap didn't know how to answer Noir's question for a moment. His eyes moved away and moved to Ulrich beside him. At this time, Ulrich had already changed into a new suit. He picked up a high-end suit from somewhere. The length of the suit fit him quite well, but his skinny frame couldn't hold up the suit. It always seemed like it was empty inside. Look. This guy was sent to a military court for being a deserter. This time, he shouldn't escape again, right? Soap said in a voice that only Noir could hear. Soap had also served in the field force. Although he thought he was not a good soldier, at least he could not do such things as desertion, let alone murdering the commander and causing the annihilation of all friendly troops. I don't know. Noir shook his head. It's better to be careful. I don't care if he runs away. I'm just afraid that he will stab him in the back. Noir said in a low voice. Then is it necessary? Soap made a chop motion with his palm. That's not necessary, he can still be considered a combat power. Noir raised his wrist and glanced at the dial. 2 minutes have passed, and there are still 13 minutes. What are you talking about? Ulrich suddenly turned his head and looked directly at Soap and Noir. At this time, Soap's palm still maintained the cut posture. Nothing, nothing. Soap smiled awkwardly and retracted his palm. Just when he was about to explain, a series of explosions suddenly came from the street not far away. They are coming, Noir shouted in a deep voice, picked up the weapons placed aside, and turned over into a makeshift barricade. This barricade is made of an overturned iron table and a few empty oil drums. There is not even a sandbag. It may be able to block 9mm pistol bullets, but it is absolutely impossible to block rifle bullets. The only thing the so-called barricade can provide is a visual shielding effect. Soap returned to the inside of the store, used the butt of his gun to sweep away the debris on the windowsill, then smashed a hole in the glass window with the butt of his gun, stuck the muzzle out of the hole, and pointed it at the intersection where the explosion came from. As for Ulrich, after hearing the explosion, he retreated into the store next door. It is not known whether he hid inside and shivered, or fled through the back door of the store. "Damn, I knew that bastard was unreliable," Soap cursed. "Now that there are only two of us, it will be even harder to hold on for 15 minutes. 12 minutes and 30 seconds left, Noir corrected. The figures of the men in black soon appeared at the corner of the street. The moment he saw this group of people, Noir's pupils couldn't help but shrink. The equipment of these men in black is complete, and there are no obvious holes or scorch marks on the black robes wrapped around the light infantry armor. Noir is very aware of the power of the booby traps he has laid, and for these men in black, for humans, it cannot cause fatal injuries. At most, it can only delay for a moment and provide advance warning. But apparently none of the men in black in front of them had been attacked by booby traps, which meant that the booby traps were detonated after they discovered them. "It's difficult," Noir muttered softly. He was not afraid of the enemy's strength, but that the strong enemy's brains were good enough. Noir thought that the booby traps were well hidden enough. Considering the opponent's full-speed march, it is simply impossible to have time to examine every corner of the street in detail. Not even the booby traps could escape the search of the men in black, let alone the two living men. The moment the group of men in black emerged from the corner, bullets rained down heavily on the barricades and shops. At the facade, the glass doors with various advertising posters were swept to pieces in an instant, and Soap was unable to lift its head under the weight of this fierce fire. The 2 rounds of alternating shooting lasted for a full minute and a half, although in Soap's eyes, those men in black were monsters rather than humans. The opponent's tactical quality was not weaker than that of any field force. The elite team, fire cover, alternate advancement, all kinds of tactical actions are quite standard, and the opponent even deployed snipers at several commanding heights in the distance. More than once, Soap heard the roar of the big sniper mixed in with the gunshots of automatic weapons. The concrete wall he used as a bunker could not block the armor-piercing bullets of anti-material caliber. He could only retreat continuously, giving up the absolutely perfect position at the window. Best shooting position. After the gunshots of the men in black stopped, Soap dared to look out the door and shouted in a low voice, "Noir? Noir, how are you doing now?" No one responded to his call. The simple, non-bulletproof barricade had been riddled with holes, and red and black blood slowly spread from behind a dumped oil drum. "Why am I the only one left again? Damn! Damn! Damn!" Soap cursed 3 times in a row, then picked up the gun and ran towards the store. The outer wall of the store would be easily penetrated by an anti-material sniper rifle. There was no safe spot in the entire front half of the store. Soap could only hide behind the cashier counter and poke the muzzle of the gun out from the side of the counter. The cashier counter of this store is specially made. It looks like a polymer material with a wood-like texture on the surface. In fact, it is lined with several bulletproof steel plates containing nano-alloy. Although this store is located in the West 5th District, which has good security, but after all, the underground black market is also a gray area on the Ark. In addition, there are a lot of valuable things in the store, and the risk of robbery is not low. The owner of the store can only spend a lot of money to build such a bulletproof counter. Even in there is also a compact gun cabinet tucked under the counter. It's a pity that this bulletproof counter was fixed to the ground with screws, and they didn't have time to move it just now. Otherwise, if this thing was used as the main bunker of the barricade, perhaps Noir would not have been killed so early. Soap didn't care to sigh. After the gunshots stopped, there was a burst of footsteps arriving at the door of the store. He clearly heard the sound of the empty oil drum being kicked away and rolling on the ground. Boom. Boom. There were 2 more gunshots. It was obviously the men in black shooting at Noir who fell to the ground. These beasts actually know how to last hit. Soap put his hand into the gun cabinet and accidentally touched a good thing, NZ-14 defensive grenade. This thing also has a nickname in the military and mercenary circles. Called Little Steel Melon. This thing looks like a pumpkin and weighs a full 3.5 kilograms. When it explodes, it will shoot out 3,800 prefabricated fragments in all directions. If used without a bunker, it is definitely a piece of equipment for fighting. A weapon that kills enemies together. What on earth has the store ever experienced, to actually put something like this under the cashier counter? Soap couldn't help but murmured in his heart. He glanced at the clock hanging on the wall out of the corner of his eye. There were still 10 minutes and 10 seconds left before the 15 minutes promised by the clown. The footsteps were very close, and the heavy rubber-soled boots stepped on the broken glass, making a click-click sound that made the eardrums extremely uncomfortable. This meant that the man in black had passed through the broken glass door and entered. Arriving inside the store. They are no more than 10 meters away from the cashier. Try this. Soap turned the delay fuse of Little Steel Pump to the shortest 1-second setting, pulled off the safety pin and threw it out. Boom. In the deafening explosion, all the glass products in the store were shattered, and countless metal fragments flew out in all directions, cutting down the first group of black people who entered the store like straw. The clothes man also smashed the furnishings and furniture in the store into a mess. The only piece of furniture that did not disintegrate was the cashier counter where Soap was hiding. But the Soap with his back against the counter still felt the impact of the metal fragments nailed to the counter. The muffled sound of snatching was like hitting his eardrums. Thanks to these bulletproof armor plates, it's genuine, otherwise the Soap would have been crushed into mince by the dense metal fragments. The main killing method of Little Steel Melon is metal fragments, and the shockwave is not too strong. Therefore, although the explosion distance is very close, Soap was not stunned, but his ears were buzzing. I don't know how many of these bastards died. Soap didn't dare to stick his head out to see. He used the groove at the end of the gun butt to hook a piece of glass shard on the ground, and with the help of the groove on the glass shard, reflecting on the situation outside, about 7 or 8 men in black entered the store. At this time, they all fell to the ground, but no one died. Their bodies were squirming strangely, as if they were about to get up from the ground at any time. Damn, they're all a bunch of invincible monsters, Soap cursed in a low voice, turned around and started rummaging through the gun cabinet under the table again. It's a pity that there is only one CQB killer like Little Steel Melon. The rest are some 9mm caliber pistols and micro-rams, as well as a few boxes of ammunition. The most powerful weapon in the entire gun cabinet is only a shotgun with the butt removed, and an ultra-short barrel still uses 5.56mm caliber bullets handed down from the old era. Enemies that couldn't even be killed by Little Steel Pumpkin. Soap didn't expect these firearms to have any killing effect on them. He took off 2 more grenades he had brought with him from the equipment, and threw them towards the door of the store. Then he hunched over and ran back quickly. This store has a 3-entry structure. The outermost store is the store, and the inner one is a reception room used for business discussions and viewing goods. The innermost one is the shop owner's living room, which is more than 20 meters deep. The outermost store has bought Soap 5 minutes. As long as the reception room and living room can each delay another 5 minutes, his blocking mission will be completed. Alien Relic Hunter. Author, Chen-Mi-san. Chapter 1045. As Soap ran, he grabbed all the furniture within reach and threw it into the aisle between the reception room and the store, artificially creating a simple roadblock. The coffee table in the reception room is very thick and has a steel plate sandwich inside. Although it is not a bulletproof armor plate containing nano-alloy like the cashier counter, its thickness alone is more than enough to block rifle bullets. It took a lot of effort for Soap to overturn the coffee table and place it in front of him. As soon as he put the gun on the edge of the coffee table, the second group of men in black rushed into the store. A burst of intense gunfire rang out in the store, and the sofas, tables, and chairs blocking the aisle were beaten to pieces. The material strength of the imitation wood polymer is actually not much different from a piece of paper when faced with the full power of a 10mm caliber bullet. The shooting of the men in black never stopped. They divided into two groups, advancing towards the corridor while alternately applying fire suppression. Not only that, the firearms they use do not use magazines, but large capacity drums, so the firepower is more sustainable. The bullet hit the coffee table, causing fragments of the ceramic slate to fly wildly, and even dents were made in the steel plate sandwich inside. Soap still couldn't put his head to aim, so he could only fight back with faith, shooting like the African black uncle in the old era, huddled his body and head behind the coffee table, raised the gun above his head, and only exposed the muzzle of the gun in the bunker. Outside, shoot in the general direction of the enemy. Of course, there is no accuracy in hitting like this, and Soap doesn't expect this shuttle to kill a few men in black. His only purpose is to slightly hinder the opponent's advancement. For him, being able to slow down the opponent even for a second, that is also meaningful. As long as the clown can successfully send the message, even if I die here, it won't be a loss. Soap gritted his teeth and thought, haha, I didn't expect to be able to become a hero after dying. What a pity. He is an unsung hero. The simple barricades made of furniture were quickly destroyed, and there was no longer any obstruction in the corridor. Soap could even hear the sound of the boots of the men in black stepping on the fragments of furniture amidst the deafening fierce gunfire. Damn, I can't retreat. Zhao Yao yelled in his heart that something was wrong. The coffee table he was using as a bunker was 4 meters away from the entrance to the living room. There was no bunker in this 4-meter distance. If you rush over like this now, you will definitely be swept away by those men in black. And staying where you are is undoubtedly the same as waiting to die. Although those men in black still look like humans, their body structure is actually the same as that of monsters. The firearms in Soap's hands cannot kill them at all, and they can completely kill them. Bullets were coming from both sides of the room. In this case, even if Soap was given a gun with unlimited bullets, a gun that would never jam, and a barrel that would never overheat, it would not change his doomed outcome. It's over, I really have no choice now. Damn it, what should I do? Cough cough. Soap breathed heavily, and the air was filled with the strong smell of gunpowder smoke and lime, which made him choke. He kept coughing. Soap's mind was running at high speed, and the CPU in his brain was on the verge of overload, but he couldn't come up with a feasible solution. All the explosives on his body have been used up, and there are still 3 full magazines, but the bullets have no lethal effect on the men in black. There is nothing in the surrounding environment that can be used, and the 2 temporary teammates are white. Give someone a run. There are still 9 minutes left before the time limit requested by the clown. Let alone 9 minutes, Soap felt that he might not even have 9 seconds left to live. The feeling of fear when death was approaching, to be precise, he couldn't even feel the fear. His mind was completely blank, and only his hands were still mechanically changing the magazine and pulling the trigger. The men in black had already rushed into the living room. I don't know why. They obviously only needed a grenade to kill the Soap, but they didn't do that. Even the fire suppression slowed down a little. Suo suddenly realized that the other party wanted to capture him alive, but thinking of the tentacles and alien limbs growing out of the bodies of the men in black in the previous encounters, Suo couldn't help but shudder. Falling into this group of people in the hand, I'm afraid it would be better to be beaten to death directly. Soap subconsciously reached for the secondary weapon hanging on his waist, Just when he was hesitating whether to pull out the pistol and shoot himself in the temple, the wall between the living room and the reception room collapsed, and hundreds of the dark tentacles of G surged out from behind him. But these tentacles did not attack Soap, but bypassed him and attacked the approaching men in black. From the tentacles breaking the wall to the last man in black being sucked into a human hum, the whole process took less than 5 seconds. Soap turned his head and looked at the place where the wall was broken. The figure of the clown did not appear, and all the tentacles retracted after helping Soap out of the siege. Has the message been sent? Soap sat there for 2 seconds, then suddenly reacted, grabbed the internal communicator and asked, "If there is another wave of enemies, I will never be able to defend it." "It's completed ahead of schedule," the clown's voice came from the receiver. "I don't know whether it was due to poor signal quality or other reasons." His voice sounded a little blurry and distorted. "It's done." Soap was overjoyed. "Then should we withdraw? There's no point in staying here and continuing to fight with those guys." "Well, it's just that you have to find a way to retreat on your own." The clown's voice became weirder, as if his throat was filled with phlegm. The slimy squirming sound mixed with the voice couldn't help but make him feel uncomfortable. The hairs on the back of the Soap stand on end. "What's going on? What's wrong with you?" Even if Soap was not smart at this time, he knew that there was something wrong with the clown's body. "Absorbing those men in black. My erosion level is close to the dangerous threshold. I may, at any time." The clown said intermittently, as if he was in a very painful state. "Will he die? Or, will he turn into a monster like those men in black?" Hearing what the clown said, Soap's heart couldn't help but thump. "I don't know." The clown said, "Please leave quickly. If you don't leave, it will be too late." Soap grabbed the communicator in his hand, feeling a little shaken in his heart. He was not sure whether the "too late" in the clown's mouth meant that the second group of men in black was about to arrive, or whether it was referring to another situation that he did not want to say. Perhaps, running away at this time is the best choice. However, without the help of the clown, can he escape alone? Does he really have a way to survive? Soap lowered his head and glanced at the corpses on the ground. The flesh and blood of these men in black had been drained by the clown's tentacles, leaving only a skinny body. The weapons they carried were scattered on the ground, and there was gunpowder smoke in the air. The smell was mixed with a disgusting smell of blood. "Just think I was dead just now." Soap touched the pistol on his waist again, and said to the clown with determination, "Didn't you say before that you left me and Noir beside you in order to use us as emergency rations at a critical moment? Although I don't know much about the degree of erosion, but if you eat me, it should relieve your symptoms, right?" "Damn, am I out of my mind and wishing to die?" As soon as he said this, Zhao Zhao felt a little regretful, but after thinking about it, it seemed that there was nothing to worry about. From Muka Fortress the reconnaissance team that set off has been almost dead so far. The giraffe is dead, Noir is dead, and only he and the clown are left. The latter is still in a very dangerous state. The annihilation of the army is only a matter of time. Even if he escapes now, it is difficult to guarantee that he will escape from the Ark alive. Even if he can escape from the Ark alive, where can he hide? After those roots penetrate the earth, the entire planet will be sacrificed by the madman named Zeus. Compared with the life on the entire planet, one person is really too small and insignificant. As long as the clown can avenge himself, kill Zeus, and destroy the other party's plan, I should have earned enough money with my life. Moreover, according to the clown, after he absorbs himself, his consciousness will not disappear, but will merge with the clown's main consciousness. From a certain point of view, he has not died, but has just changed. Just a body. If you're lucky, you might be able to witness you killing that bastard called Zeus with your own eyes. Soap took a deep breath and waited for the clown's tentacles to penetrate his body, but at this moment, the clown rejected his proposal. "You run away, this level of erosion can only be achieved by your own soul. There is no way to spread it below the safety line. Even if Noir is still alive, it is far from enough. But I have a backup plan. Now you are of no use to me. Huh, Soap was stunned for a moment. For a moment, he didn't know what to say. It's a good thing not to be eaten as food, but the short-term relief is followed by endless confusion. The second batch of enemies will arrive here in 5 minutes at most, the clown added. This time it's not just the men in black who are here. What about you? What are you going to do next? Soap asked quickly. Don't you even need help? Before the erosion problem is solved, I can't guarantee that I will be sane at all times. It is far more dangerous for you to follow me than to act alone. I will help you lure those guys away. Next, you have to rely on your own. The clown paused and added, by the way, the other reconnaissance team that was separated from you was not completely wiped out. There is still one survivor. Her current location is in the East 8th District. According to the mobile judging from the direction, we will enter the East 7th District in about 2 hours. You can find a way to meet her. There are survivors in the other team. Zhao Zhou was slightly startled. He always thought that the team was destroyed before entering the Ark at all. How did you know? Even you can know the location of that person, then doesn't Zeus definitely know about it too? If I go over to meet that person now, isn't that just throwing myself into a trap? However, the clown did not give an answer this time. Next, no matter what Soap asked, there was never any response from the other end of the communicator. It seemed that the clown had turned off or discarded the communicator. East 8th District, another survivor Zhao Yao glanced in the direction of the warehouse and muttered, it's too far from here, almost across half of the Ark. If we walk in a straight line, we even have to cross after passing the core area. I would not go looking for that person unless I was crazy, right? He climbed over the collapsed wall, walked through the messy living room, and walked to the warehouse again. The priceless communication equipment of Alpha Civilization had completed its mission and was smashed into a pile of scrap metal by an unimaginable force. As for the Joker, he has disappeared. Are you really going to the East 8th District? Zhao Zhao was hesitating when a strange noise came from behind an ajar iron door nearby. Who is there? Soap was startled, picked up the gun in his hand, and pointed it at the door. This is the back street of the store. It is called a street, but it is actually just a narrow walkway between the street-facing shops and the warehouse. Behind the doors of several shops are their own warehouses. The iron door making noise is the warehouse of a store specializing in medieval audio and video products next door. However, according to the clown's original words, the real money-making of this store is actually reselling rubbings and copies of literary relics. Some wealthy people who admire Alpha Civilization especially like to buy some Alpha Civilization stone tablets or other relics engraved with text and put them as decorations at home. Just like the literati in ancient times, they like to hang some calligraphy and paintings on the wall, even if they can't understand any of the Alpha Civilization's words. Soap took a deep breath and walked slowly towards the iron door. He didn't think those men in black were hiding behind the door. If they were them, they could just rush out and push him down. Why bother to be mysterious? Just when Soap raised his foot and was about to kick the door, the iron door automatically opened inward, and a skull-like head poked out halfway, saying urgently, "Don't kick the door. The sound is too loud, it will attract those things it's coming." "Urich? Why are you?" Soap put away the gun and asked with a frown, "Didn't you run away? Those things are all around." Ulrich shook his head, "It's too dangerous. I can only hide here until now." "Can you sense the men in black nearby, those guys?" Soap asked. He originally thought that Ulrich's ability to sense danger could only be used in the underground maze. Unexpectedly, he could still sense the danger factors around him after reaching the ground. If you take him with you, wouldn't it be possible to avoid a lot of dangers in advance? P.S. Thanks for the 100 starting coins for the rifle reward. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Alien Relic Hunter. Author, and Chen-Mi-san. Chapter 1046. With this guy Ulrich around, it seems feasible to cross the Ark. The only thing you need to worry about is whether this guy with a criminal record will abandon his companions at a critical moment and run away, or simply stab him in the back. After all, it was for this reason that Ulrich was sent to a military court. I don't know what those things are, but I can be sure that they are dangerous. Ulrich nodded repeatedly. The further away from them, the better. Since you can sense the dangers around you, why didn't you notice it at all when we approached you? Soap suddenly discovered a blind spot. If Ulrich's perception ability was so powerful, then the three of them would not be able to sense it at all. It was impossible to complete the assault against him. Even before seeing Ulrich, the latter had already sensed their presence in advance and escaped first. This must be clarified now, otherwise, it will be completely meaningless to question him when Ulrich leads him directly into the circle of men in black. You are not particularly dangerous to me, especially in that place, where the moth is, and its aura completely obscured you, so I didn't notice it. Ulrich still didn't seem to be used to it. Speaking, it took a long time just to organize the language, and the order of the words was also messed up. There were nearly 10 grammatical errors in just a few dozen words. Fortunately, Soap has become accustomed to this characteristic of the other party, and the brain can translate the other party's words into the correct meaning on its own. Are you saying that none of the three of us are a threat to you? Not even as good as those mutated creatures? Yes, Ulrich replied. Zhao Zhao remembered that Urich, a mutated hyena that was dormant in the shadows and wanted to ambush the three of them, could sense it. However, that mutant hyena was not very strong, and even the clown did not take action. Only Zhao Zhao could do it. He and Noir took care of the hyenas in one stroke. Perhaps what Ulrich sensed was the physical strength of the organism. In terms of physical strength alone, Soap and Noir are indeed incomparable to a mutated hyena that is 5 to 6 meters long. If they didn't have guns in their hands and encountered this hyena with bare hands, even if the number of people increased tenfold, it would only be enough for the hyena. Just an extra meal. However, according to this logical analysis, shouldn't Urich be able to sense the clown? The fighting power of Soap and Nouvel relies on technology and weapons, while the clown's strength belongs to himself. It is no exaggeration to say that the clown is more powerful than most monsters in the underground labyrinth. Such an existence, for Urich, it should at least be classified into the level of very scary and shuddering just thinking about it, but in reality, the clown seemed to be invisible, and was directly ignored by Urich. What about the clown? He is the guy who is wrapped up tightly and is so powerful that he can even provoke those monsters alone and then escape unscathed. Couldn't you have sensed him at that time? Soap asked. Who? Ulrich's eyes showed a hint of confusion. What clown? What clown? Soap was stunned for a moment. Have you forgotten who tied you up with tentacles when we met? I don't remember. Ulrich shook his head. I only remember that you were 2 people. 2 people? Soap suddenly felt a chill rising from behind. What exactly is going on? Has Ulrich's memory been tampered with? However, he was also fully involved in the sabotage operation that led the monsters to the ground. He couldn't possibly forget Noir, who was the monster attractor. Wait a moment. Was it Noir who went to lure the monsters? Under Ulrich's puzzled eyes, Soap stood there blankly. He vaguely felt as if he had forgotten something, but he couldn't remember it. Why did I run into the underground maze? Oh, by the way, the giraffe was killed by those damn men in black. I wanted to avenge him, so I planned a plan with Noir to release the monsters in the underground labyrinth. It happened that we met D-class personnel Ulrich Nowitzki during this process. After negotiating with him, he decided to help us. As for why he is here now, it is to complete the initial mission, to collect the internal situation of the Ark and send it back to Muka Fortress. Soap turned his head and glanced at the remains of the communication equipment, and nodded subconsciously. There must be a large number of drones from Muka or other surviving fortresses hovering in the airspace near the Ark. As long as one of the drones can receive the signal it sends, Muka Fortress can know everything. There are no survivors on the Ark. The anti-human organization headed by Zeus attempts to sacrifice the entire human civilization and Alpha Star to the great god, and the giant plant that takes root in the core area and spreads its roots to all parts of the Ark plants are the key to this sacrificial ceremony. The army of Muka Fortress must destroy this plant, otherwise, everyone will die. No, not just physical death, but even the soul will be absorbed as nourishment and will never be freed. Thinking of this, Soap immediately shuddered. He didn't quite understand what it felt like for the soul to never be freed, but deep in his memory, he seemed to have had a similar experience, although the specific details were so vague that he couldn't even think of it. Get up, but just trying to touch those memories shrouded in fog will make you feel a chilling fear. Human instinct made Soap unwilling to recall those things. Although he had many doubts in his heart, he still gave up the plan to delve deeper and patted Ulrich on the shoulder. I got reliable news that there is another person in the other team. The survivors are now in the East 8th District and are moving towards the East 7th District. We need to cross half of the Ark to find that person to meet up. Why are you looking for that person? Ulrich asked. Huh? Soap was slightly startled. Ulrich was really stunned when he asked, why? Why should I take huge risks to find another survivor? If you want to escape, just take care of yourself. What does the life and death of the survivors of the other team have to do with you? However, subconsciously, Soap firmly believed that as long as he found the survivor, he would be able to find a way to escape from the Ark. This idea was like a thought stamp, firmly imprinted in his brain. I'm not sure, but that person seems to have found a way to escape from the Ark, Soap said vaguely. 12 kilometers south of Muka Fortress, in an unnamed valley. This is the first time Kaylan has seen the true appearance of antimatter with his own eyes, a gray, rolling substance like mist suspended more than half a meter above the ground. Surrounded by it is several layers of space barriers that are invisible to the naked eye. This ball of antimatter is stored in a sealed vacuum space. Compared with Alpha civilization's use of electromagnetic fields to constrain it, the container made of space barriers is safer. As long as the space barrier does not disappear, these antimatter will not come into contact with any positive matter, and naturally there will be no annihilation phenomenon that releases a huge amount of energy. Kaylan and Ze-Lugo looted the sites of 11 death ray cannons and found a total of 1,550 grams of antimatter from the core components of these death ray cannons. This number was what Ze-Lugo told Kaylan. Many people think that the mass of antimatter should be a negative number. This is actually a wrong understanding. Antimatter is a substance composed of atoms composed of positrons and antiprotons. This statement sounds a bit convoluted, but in fact, as long as you know that antimatter and positive matter both have mass, the only difference is that the particles that make up these substances have completely opposite electrical properties. The electrons of positive matter are negatively charged, and the protons in the nucleus are positively charged. In the old era, this was a compulsory content in high school physics courses, but in this era, this part of the knowledge is not included in the compulsory education curriculum and can only be studied in advanced courses. Only when you study relevant professional topics can you learn it. The compulsory education in ARC is more practical. Although there are subjects such as chemistry and physics, they are all elective courses. There are no credits and no dedicated teachers to explain to you. Interested students need self-study by reading videos and graphic materials, and Kaylan is one of the very few students who is interested in this knowledge. However, he is not sure now whether he actually attended classes in a compulsory education institution or whether it was a false memory that was implanted later. The only memory that can be confirmed to be real at present is the part after he became a relic hunter. As for the memories before becoming a relic hunter, it is very likely that the undead crew will forge them. Tisk, is this an annihilation bomb? Layton crossed his arms and walked around the gray fog. It's really hard to imagine that the power of this thing after being released is enough to destroy a whole building. Fortress. Didn't you witness his power with your own eyes? Chi Hanfan asked. It's different. The antimatter mass that destroyed that battleship is probably not even 1/10,000th of that here. Layton shook his head. This amount is enough for the undead crew members to drink a pot of it. But the key to the problem is how to send this annihilation bomb into the interior of the Ark, or even into the roots of the giant tree in the core area. Yvonne sat on a stone with a very flat top that was weathered. A brand new silver-white prosthetic leg supported the chin. This thing is very powerful, but if it is detonated outside the Ark, it will definitely not achieve the effect we expect. You only have one chance, Kaylan said, staring at the antimatter churning in the vacuum space. These antimatter are almost all the stocks left by the Alpha civilization. Maybe some of them are buried deep in unknown ruins, but there is no time left. Allow us to explore those ruins. We must succeed first time. At this time, we should play out all our trump cards in one go. We can no longer hide them, Layton said loudly. Let's just drive out Yagunactor. With its firepower, it should be able to opening a gap in Ark performance. The firepower of Yagunactor, the Hound raised his eyebrows. Aren't all the weapons on this thing inoperable? Otherwise, we wouldn't have been passively beaten that day, with no chance to fight back. No, Agunactol itself is a powerful weapon. Chi Hanfan took over the words. Relying on the strength of Agunactol's own energy shield, it is enough to break through the Ark's protective shield. As for the hull of Yagunactor, it is all made of nano-alloy, and there is space technology inside to strengthen the structure. I even think that it can be inserted directly into the core area of the Ark and send annihilation bombs into it. No, Kaylan thought for a moment and rejected the proposal. If Yagunactor is used as a breakthrough method, then the detonation of the annihilation bomb will inevitably affect Yagunactor. This is the only way for human civilization to survive in the future. If it is damaged, even if we destroy the giant tree, victory will have no meaning to us. Yet, Hound side, there are a bunch of lunatics on the opposite side. They can stake all their wealth and do whatever it takes, but we can't. We have to live a careful life in the future. For us, die together, even if it's a tragic victory, it's no different from losing. According to the owner of the Hive City, both Alpha Civilization and Alpha Planet have been marked by that existence. Not only is this not the new home of the Ark Civilization, it cannot even be used as a place to stay for a long time. Sooner or later, that existence will notice the existence of Alpha Star again, regardless of whether the Alpha Civilization is strong enough to become his dependent family, or it can only be reduced to nourishment in the end. After being freezing for such a long time, it has to accept the results. At that time, he will find that the Alpha Civilization has disappeared, and there is a weaker Ark Civilization on this planet, although he will not destroy the Ark Civilization immediately, but after being watched by him, the Ark Civilization will repeat the same mistake. The mistakes of Alpha Civilization, the disasters that have been staged in the Hive will appear again. Every Ark human being will be marked by that existence, and no matter where he escapes to in the universe, he cannot escape his control. The only chance for the Ark Civilization is to inherit the legacy of the Alpha Civilization as much as possible before it notices the changes on planet Alpha, and then board the Agunactor to once again embark on an interstellar journey. In the second round of the attack, the main force will have to rely on the Skatai and the coalition forces from various fortresses. Hound frowned. Agunactor can participate in the battle, but it can only be used as a support unit. He did not continue talking. Yagunactor itself is indeed powerful enough, but its biggest shortcoming is its lack of firepower. With Yagunactor as the main force, it can break through all obstacles, but if it is only allowed to if it comes to support, then its help to the main force will be minimal. Unless a way can be found to quickly recharge Agunactor. Alien Relic Hunter. Author, and Chen Mi San. Chapter 1047. Chapter 1006 Star Destroyer Cannon, 0.2% power. Wait, a sudden idea flashed in K. Ian's head, and he focused his attention on the ball of antimatter. Antimatter and normal matter will cause annihilation when they come into contact, thus generating a large amount of energy. If this energy is, how about giving it to Yagonactor? Although theoretically speaking, it is more difficult to control the energy generated by annihilation than to control nuclear fusion. There are multiple space barriers inside Yagonactor, and even the energy belonging to the alien gods can be firmly locked in among them. Annihilation energy should be a piece of cake for it, right? Logo, separate 1/10 of the antimatter. Kaylan immediately decided to put this idea into action. 1/10 of the antimatter was quickly separated and stored in another smaller space container. Everyone quickly returned to Yagonactor. After Kaylan entered a long series of instructions on the console, a space channel that had never appeared before was opened. The space passage leads to a very strange room. This room seems to be only 10 meters square, but when people walk in one direction, they can't touch the boundary of the room. Everyone's position is determined when entering the room. They were fixed in place for an instant. No matter how they moved, the space would move with the people. When two people moved in opposite directions, the space between them would be briefly distorted. Then, the two people would move again. He was immediately pulled back to the original distance. "This place is good as a prison," Hound commented. "There is no possibility of escape for those locked up here." This place was originally a prison, used to imprison the bodies infused with the energy of the alien gods. Kaylan said, "Those bodies are very dangerous to both the Alpha civilization and the Ark civilization. Once out of control, the bodies will run wild. It's not a big deal, but if the breath of ability god's energy leaks and attracts the attention of that being, that would be the most fatal thing." "That's right." The Hound looked around. "It feels like the Alpha civilization is playing with fire. If you are not careful, you will burn yourself. But only a fire strong enough can illuminate the darkest night. They have no other choice." After Kaylan finished speaking, he snapped his fingers, and two coffins, one black and one white, floated up from the ground. The white coffin is still sealed and cannot be opened, but the black coffin is empty. The body that has been cultivated in the black coffin for decades has become one with Kaylan. Kaylan was the only one who could move freely in this room. He walked to the black coffin, put 1/10 of the antimatter in it, and then took out a bunch of it from his backpack for the annihilation reaction. The debris was also poured into the black coffin. "Suddenly I feel that this coffin is a bit like a crucible now." Kaylan twitched the corner of his mouth and closed the lid of the black coffin. The next second, Logo lifted the space barrier that isolated 1/10 of the antimatter. The patterns on the surface of the black coffin, or in other words, the extremely precise crystal circuit structure, suddenly emitted a dazzling bright light, and the surrounding space was strangely distorted. Kaylan, who was closest to the black coffin, suddenly felt a strong feeling, a sense of crisis. He immediately took a few steps back. The twisted space spread out like water ripples with the black coffin as the center. Seeing that it was about to affect everyone in the room, Kaylan quickly opened the space channel, including himself. Teleported out. "What's going on? Is it messed up?" the Hound asked hurriedly as soon as his feet stepped on the ground. "No. Yagonactor's energy reserves are rising sharply, although compared with the maximum reserve, this amount of energy is far from enough, but it is already much stronger than when it just came out of the magma. Some of the energy reserves before weapons that cannot be used can now be used," Layton said excitedly as he stared at the console. "Since antimatter charges so quickly, why did the Alpha civilization not use antimatter to charge Yagonactor, but instead soak the battleship in magma and let it slowly absorb geothermal energy?" Hound was a little confused. Said, "Antimatter is hard to come by. Capturing or creating antimatter requires extremely terrifying energy. Using that energy, and then using antimatter to charge Yagonactor, is not only unnecessary, but will also produce huge amounts of energy. Los Kalan explained, even the Alpha civilization itself does not have much antimatter inventory. Okay, so what are the weapons that can be used now? The Hound turned to look at Layton. The name of this thing is on. Damn it, this thing can actually be used. Layton typed a page of weapons list, pointed at the string of characters at the top and shouted. Kalan has already changed Yagonactor's alpha text operation interface to a Chinese interface, so others can understand the contents of the operation interface. Star, body, split, dissolve, position. The Hound read out the name of the weapon word by word. It sounds like it gives people an unknown feeling. The effect of this thing is what? I haven't tried it either, Kalan shrugged, but taken literally, this thing is probably a Star Destroyer cannon. Star Destroyer cannon. Can this cannon destroy the entire Alpha Star? Hound's eyes widened. I'm afraid it's quite annoying, but I think it should be okay to use it to destroy some smaller asteroids. Kalan clicked on the specific option of asteroid disintegration stand, only to find that the name of this thing was lit up. But there is a line of small words below. Due to lack of energy, it can only maintain 0.05 seconds at 0.2% power. It turns out to be the castrated version. There was a look of disappointment on the Hound's face. If this 1/10 of the antimatter could activate the full power Star Destroyer cannon, we wouldn't have to go to all the trouble to blow up the roots of that giant tree. Okay, just raise the entire ark with the giant trees and the damn undead crew. Anyway, what we want to explore in the future are the ruins of Alpha civilization, and the resources on the ark are not that big to us. Important. If there are tens of millions of people in the Survivor Alliance now, then losing the ark is tantamount to doomsday. However, according to the statistics of various fortresses, the total number of all the Survivor Alliance members, including the army and civilians, is only 30. Less than 10,000 people. These populations can be fully supported by the ecological zone within Yagonactor. At most, life will be a little tight during the land reclamation period. After resources begin to enter the normal cycle, the output of Block 1 will definitely not be greater than the largest agricultural and industrial areas on the ark combined. Phew. There are 4 hours left. We must march to the ark immediately. Yvonne glanced at his watch and urged, according to the code, when the roots of the giant tree penetrate into the ground of Alpha Planet, I'm afraid only a 100% power Star Destroyer cannon can really solve the problem. Well, without further ado, let's let the Scatty cooperate with the ground troops to launch the second round of attack. Kalan nodded. Tell them, this time is not a fire reconnaissance or a feint attack, but a battle between us and the enemy. A decisive battle between us. This time, we have no way out. The heavy cruiser Sci-Fi recently underwent emergency repairs at Mukake Fortress. Although materials and engineering technicians were urgently transported from Griffin, less than 1/3 of the repair work was completed. The wounds on the surface of the ship can be seen everywhere, and in many places, the internal structure of the ship can even be glimpsed through the damaged outer armor. If the Sci-Fi were a person or some kind of creature, such injuries could be described as deep enough to show the bones. This is already the limit, the chief engineer in charge of maintenance operations said to Alexander. The speed and firepower of the battleship have basically been restored. Due to damage to the core components of the energy shield generator, the current maximum power is only 60% of the previous one. And it cannot be maintained at maximum power for more than half a minute, otherwise there is a risk of self-explosion. The other thing is the physical defense of the battleship. You can see this even if I don't mention it. If we encounter another battle like last time, the monsters will come straight in, and you must keep the Marines and aviation groups on the ship ready for battle. Those monsters should not appear. Alexander glanced at the screen, which showed the scene captured by the drone in real time. The pale giant tree reached into the sky with the base of the ark. As for the trees that originally covered the surface of the ark, the fleshy fungi blanket had completely withered, cracked, and curled up, just like a reptile shedding its skin, revealing the external structure of the Ark itself. "What about that tree?" the chief engineer couldn't help but ask. "How much do you know about it?" "I know nothing," Alexander shook his head. "I only know that my goal is to send the VIP into the core area of the Ark. Other things have nothing to do with me." "Alas." The chief engineer was silent for a full minute, then sighed and nodded to Alexander. "Then I wish you good luck." There were still 3 hours and 45 minutes left before the deadline in the secret text. The Sci-Fi slowly drove out of the temporary airport built for maintenance operations. Hundreds of transport planes approached one after another and attached themselves to the ship with fixed devices. On the outer deck of the Sci-Fi, the flying speed of the transport aircraft is far slower than that of the Sci-Fi battleship. In order not to lose touch with the battleship, they can only attach to the outside of the battleship like a fish attached to the belly of a whale. As for the cabins and hangars inside the battleship, it was already crowded with soldiers and tactical mechs preparing for airborne operations. This is the last battle in the battle to recapture the Ark. Except for Yagunactor, the Survivor Alliance has staked all its chips. Time remaining, 3 hours and 5 minutes. The Scatty once again approached the airspace of the Ark, and Yagunactor turned on the optical camouflage device, hanging far behind like a ghost. "Although I have seen this thing on the surveillance screen, I can only feel the magnificence after looking closely." Chi Hanfan murmured, "This tree is too tall and too big, I can't even raise my head." "Can't see the top of it?" "The top of this tree has already penetrated Alpha Star's atmosphere and has reached low Earth orbit." Layton continued, "I really don't understand what kind of fertilizer the undead crew would give it. To be able to grow so fast and so big, this is completely inconsistent with the law of conservation of matter. According to the size of the giant tree, even if all the materials that make up the Ark are dismantled and reassembled, it may not be enough to assemble such a large tree. Don't think about it if you don't understand it. Don't worry about whether it has something to do with that bullshit god or not." In his eyes, maybe our laws of physics are just a joke, Hound said. Ya said, "Damn, just looking at such a tall tree makes me panic, so I'd better blow it up quickly." "There's no rush." Kaylan rested his head on the control ball on the console, staring at the image from the external monitor. 2 squadron-sized fighter jets flew out of the hangar of the Scatty. They first dived to lower their altitude, then approached, then launched all the missiles they carried and began to bombard the Ark's superstructure. Ark's automatic protective cover was immediately activated, but due to the presence of the giant tree, a huge hole appeared directly above the core area in the originally seamless protective cover. At the same time, due to the existence of this gap, the energy at the edge of the hole, the shield status has also become very unstable, and it seems that it will go out at any time. This automatic shield is generated by many shield generators. The output frequency of each shield generator has been adjusted. If 2 shield generators are superimposed together, the effect of 1 + 1 will be much greater than 2. In the same way, when a shield generator at a certain location suddenly shuts down half of the energy shield, the strength of the energy shield will never be reduced by only half. Dongwei calls the mothership. Dongwei calls the mothership to find the weak spot in the target's shield. A probing attack is underway. 6 bombers disguised as fighter jets lined up in a row. The moment they were about to hit the trunk of the giant tree, they all raised their noses and began to fly straight up against the trunk. At the same time, the bomb bays opened directly and dropped the already prepared bombs. All the bombs poured into the gap in the energy shield. These bombs were all small nuclear bombs equipped with tactical nuclear warheads. After falling into the energy shield, they exploded violently. The famous high-rise surface buildings adjacent to the core area of the Ark sank into the Ark one after another amidst the explosions. Inside, under the influence of the explosion, the energy shields near the gap were extinguished one after another, and the area of the gap began to become larger and larger. The first step of the combat plan was successful. Major General Alexander looked at the pictures captured by the drone with some excitement. A large number of shield-generating devices were destroyed, and the gaps in the energy shield were torn, allowing the Marine Corps to get ready for airborne. Alien Relic Hunter. Author, and Chenmi San. Chapter 1048. Every lowered unit, please be prepared. The airdrop operation will begin in 15 seconds. In order to preserve the strength of the Skatai as much as possible in the early stages of the battle, the Skatai did not approach the giant tree for airdrops. Instead, it sent dozens of transport aircraft to fly towards the gap in the energy shield in a dispersed charge formation. I don't know why, but ARC didn't make any counterattack this time. Not only did it not intercept these fighters and transport planes, it didn't even try to fill the energy gap. I always feel that something is wrong. Hound stared at the screen intently and murmured, "This is really going too smoothly. Could it be the other party's trap? Please enter the trap." It's hard to say. Chi Hanfan shook his head. Maybe the birth of this giant tree has cost the Undead Crew Association too much, and they no longer have time to take care of us. It shouldn't be. Hound immediately questioned, with the behavior of those bastards from the Immortal Crew, it is absolutely impossible to leave such a big flaw. They knew that Kaylan and Yagonactor were out of control. I also know that the survivors in the wilderness have formed a survivor alliance to fight against them, so it is impossible not to take any precautions. Hound took a deep breath and continued, "Unless, they deliberately sold this flaw to us. Then assuming this is a trap, what are they planning?" Chi Hanfan frowned. "Are they planning to trick all our living forces into the Ark and then annihilate them in one fell swoop?" It's hard to say. The Hound looked confused, but time waits for no one, and we have no chance to test it. It is estimated that the Undead Crew members have understood this, so they dare to do this. This is no longer a conspiracy, but a conspiracy. Seek. Yes, we have no choice. Yvonne continued. If we choose to go all in, we will easily fall into their trap. If we hesitate, then when the roots of the giant tree penetrate deep into the earth of Alpha Star, then we will never have a chance to come back. Then why not just be reckless to the end? Layton's loud voice rang out. No matter what the damn trap is, just put the annihilation bomb in your humming mouth. There is an old saying in China. Yes, it's called break through 10 guilds with one force. One force can defeat 10. Hound rolled his eyes at Layton and corrected him. Anyway, it's almost the same, as long as you understand what I mean. Layton waved his hand. I don't believe it. They can still resist the attack of the annihilation bomb. If they can really defend themselves against it, then in this battle there was no chance of winning from the beginning, and it's not unfair to lose. Okay, will you die if you stop saying a few words? Hound raised his leg and kicked Layton on the butt. Kaylan and the others have already set off. If the annihilation bomb fails to destroy the giant tree, then we are left with the only option. The Hound didn't say what this only option was, but everyone present knew it. Crash into it with the Yagonactor and die together with the enemy. There were a total of 64 transport aircraft in the first batch. These transport aircraft had most of their weapons and armor removed in order to maximize their speed and load capacity. In the face of ARC's defense measures, firepower and defense power, it makes no sense at all. Even battleships can't withstand it. Even if the armor strength of these transport planes is increased to the upper limit, they will fall in one hit. The only thing that works is speed. 64 transport planes soon flew over the energy shield gap. Marines and tactical mechas jumped out of the cabin like dumplings, falling downward at a free fall speed. These airborne troops are not equipped with parachutes. Parachutes will slow down their descent and can easily turn the airborne troops into living targets in mid-air. Therefore, the soldiers only wore a bat wingsuit that could control the flight angle in the air. As for the impact when landing, they relied entirely on cushioning airbags and elastic mechanical exoskeletons to resolve it. The soldiers selected as the airborne troops were all enhanced people, and a group of them had undergone temporary enhancement surgeries. They had just come off the operating table a few hours ago, and even the sutures at the incision had not yet healed. Intensive surgery does not guarantee that they can survive the airborne process, and may even cause wounds to burst or a series of other postoperative sequelae under the huge impact, but in order to increase the probability of success in combat operations, the soldiers accepted the surgery without hesitation. Everyone knows very well that if they lose this battle, human civilization will most likely come to an end. For Kaylan and the others, it is not only the human civilization on the Ark that has come to an end, but also the inheritance that has continued from human civilization in an unknown dimension to Alpha civilization and then to the Ark civilization. This torch in the dark night is like a baton, passed to each other by countless human civilizations, and now it has been passed into their hands. A heavy rain suddenly started falling in the dark night, and the cold rain slapped everything on the earth, and the flames kept swaying, as if it would go out at any time. Kaylan didn't know how many times these different human civilizations had encountered heavy rain like this in the process of inheritance, but since this torch can be passed to their hands, it means that those civilizations are hard-pressed. Withstood the baptism of heavy rain alive. Even if civilization collapsed, even if individuals died, they would not let this torch of hope go out. Then Kaylan can't let the torch be extinguished in his own hands. Height 300. 270. Enemies found below. Prepare to attack. The roar mixed with the whistling wind echoed in the headphones of every airborne soldier. Looking down, they could clearly see that there were many people on the platform below. The black figure is waiting in formation. Directly above the core area of Ark is a huge platform. There are many important buildings built on this platform, such as Ark's main signal tower, the central antenna of the radar system, array air defense turrets, etc. When Ark takes off, these buildings they can all be retracted into the Ark, just like the third New Tokyo City in the anime called Neon Genesis Evangelion that can sink into the ground. But these buildings did not shrink underground at this time, but turned into ruins one after another. These ruins were not the work of the previous round of bombers, but the work of the giant trees right in front of them. When the giant tree broke out of the ground from the core area, the entire core area platform was squeezed and cracked, the floor panels were torn and deformed, and the buildings fell down like dominoes. The most important area in the upper part of the Ark was destroyed in a short time. Within seconds, it was razed to the ground. The man in black observed by the airborne troops was standing among the ruins, holding a gun and firing continuously into the air. It's just that the airborne tribes fell very fast, and it was difficult for ordinary firearms to target them. Only a few unlucky guys were hit by stray bullets, while most of the other airborne troops passed through the rain of bullets and landed on the high platform. Kaylan and Ze-Logo secretly mingled among the first batch of airborne troops. The battle plan that Kaylan told General Maginot and Major General Alexander was to first let the Scatty and the Survivor Alliance troops tear open the gap in the energy shield, and clean up the enemies around the gap, and then let Yagunak Toll's Star Destroyer cannon open the hole directly into the root system of the giant tree, and finally Ze-Logo carried the annihilation bomb into the root system area to blast it. But this is only a superficial plan. Kaylan knows very well that in the Survivor League, there must be spies planted by the undead crew. After this combat plan is issued, the spies will definitely find ways to pass the news back to the Ark. Kaylan even has the command system of the Survivor League. Neither can be fully trusted. Once there is a mole among the staff, the undead crew will already have all the information in advance without even waiting for the combat plan to be distributed to the front-line combat units. Only by taking things by surprise can we catch them unprepared. Kaylan directly chose to sneak into the first batch of airborne troops. If this was a trap, then he would simply use the trick and penetrate their defenses directly into the heart before the undead crew members could react. The traps used to deal with ordinary soldiers could not stop Kaylan and Ze-Logo. What Kaylan wants to fight is this information gap. Land on the ground immediately. When using the space ability to buffer, try to use some disguise without being too obvious, Kaylan said to Ze-Lugo, who was hugging Ian's chest like a koala at this time. Look, it seems that the two people are tied together with seat belts, but in fact they are sitting in a space content that is invisible to the naked eye. This space container can not only block the bullets fired at them, but can also adjust the position of the two at any time to ensure that they land where they want to land. No, it's better not to take risks in an instant. Kaylan changed his mind again. Put away your abilities. I can't guarantee that there will be people in the undead crew who can sense space fluctuations. Adjust your speed. We just landed free fall. Okay, Ze-Lugo said in Ian's ear. The space container surrounding the two people suddenly disappeared, and the high-speed airflow mixed with gunpowder smoke and the smell of burning instantly poured into the gap between Ian's neck, and there was a loud whistling sound in his ears. The two were about to collide heavily. On the high platform, Kaylan pulled the rope around his waist hard, and several huge airbags suddenly expanded, wrapping the two of them in them. This kind of cushioning airbag was inspired by early space probes. However, compared with the prototype product that bounced around like a ball for a long time after landing, this kind of cushioning airbag has a pressure-regulating valve inside and is painted on the outside. With a layer of viscous agent, when it is impacted, the squeezed side will quickly release the air pressure by adjusting the valve to offset the impact and rebound force as much as possible. The airbag that wrapped the two people only bounced twice and rolled less than 20 meters before stopping. Kaylan immediately released the gas in the airbag and pulled Ze-Lugo out of it. Time stop is turned on. Everything around him turned into a black and white freeze frame. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Kaylan observed the situation on the battlefield to his heart's content. The men in black who blocked the airborne troops were obviously corrupted transformations, or, in other words, special clones created specifically for combat. They have control chips implanted in their brains and will never betray the orders of the undead crew. The complex biochemical transformation surgeries and body mutations caused by erosion have given them powerful physical strength and terrifying healing abilities. In terms of individual combat effectiveness alone, these men in black are far superior to the airborne troops. With the firearms in the hands of the airborne troops, it is difficult to kill them completely. Even if they are reduced to pulp with heavy machine guns, the pulp will struggle to gather together and condense into a human form, or some other alien monster. And went into battle again. The only thing that could kill these corroded men in black was the flamethrowers equipped by a few soldiers and tactical mechas. Only those men in black who were burned to char by the flamethrowers showed no signs of resurrection. But at this point, these men in black seemed to be easier to deal with than the containers of erosion seeds. Some sharp-eyed soldiers have discovered this. After killing a man in black, they will throw the other person's body into the fire before the other person is resurrected. The smell of burning protein is there. It filled the battlefield, even overpowering the smell of smoke and blood for a time. When the time stop was lifted, Kaylan pulled out the large caliber pistol from his waist at a speed that was almost enough to create an afterimage, forced the muzzle of the gun into the mouth of a man in black who rushed forward, and pulled the trigger. The bullet directly took away the back half of the opponent's head, and the splattered blood and brain matter directly splashed on Ian's mask and clothes. Ze-Lugo originally wanted to use a space barrier to help Kaylan block these filth, but Kaylan once again signaled her not to use space power. The people of the undead crew are definitely watching this battlefield. Before we find a way to get to the roots of the giant tree, we must disguise ourselves as ordinary soldiers as much as possible, Kaylan said in a voice that only Ze-Lugo could hear. Ordinary soldiers won't have the reaction speed you just did, Ze-Lugo said expressionlessly. Well, there are some relatively high-level enhanced people in the elite force. It's normal, as long as they don't act too eye-catching, Kaylan said. Just as the two people were leaning against each other and shooting at the men in black around them, a Tiger Hunter tactical mecha painted in a very inconspicuous iron gray tore through the heavy siege and approached the two people. In front of Among the first batch of airborne troops were not only Kaylan and Ze Luo, but also Valentina, who was driving the Tiger Hunter. Chi Hanfan originally refused to let her come, but Valentina Na insisted on participating in the assault, but Chi Hanfan couldn't defeat her at all, so he had no choice but to agree. Although the outer shell of this tactical mecha is a Tiger Hunter, the internal structure is actually all customized high-end accessories. It is a big toy that Leighton assembles himself in his spare time. Because the blasphemer's target was too obvious, this machine was temporarily lent to Valentina for use. "We are going to move due west," Kaylan shouted towards the Tiger Hunter. "There should be a vertical passage for helicopters to land directly to the apron on the next level." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Alien Relic Hunter. Author, Chen-Mi-san. Chapter 1049. Copy that, Valentina said in a muffled voice. She turned around and used her machine cannon to blast away the two men in black who rushed forward and tried to attack Kaylan and the others with their tentacles. She took the lead to move closer to the west. Kaylan and Ze Luo followed closely behind Valentina's mecha, forming a small-scale mutant collaboration, killing the nearby men in black while moving towards the target location. The three of them have finally reunited. Chi Hanfan, who was always watching the battlefield, breathed a sigh of relief. The most dangerous part of the battle plan at this stage is the airborne process. Seeing them successfully land, I can finally let go of my worries. Half a pill. It's too early for you to relax. Hell is coming next. Hound shook his head and expressed that he did not agree with Chi Hanfan's statement. These men in black are just cannon fodder for the undead crew. Even the elite monsters, it doesn't even count. The troublesome things are still to come, not to mention that Ziona, who you regard as your precious daughter, is not driving the blasphemer mecha this time, but is just a big toy that Leighton made by himself. To be honest, I suggest you be mentally prepared. Okay, I know, don't say anything, you are a person who is unforgiving with your mouth. In the army back then, you offended many more people even if you formed a reinforced company. Chi Hanfan glanced at the Hound, glanced at me and said angrily, I have a good temper and won't argue with you. A reinforced company? Then you are underestimating me. A reinforced battalion is just about the same. Hound waved his hand. Don't think that my words are ugly. To be honest, I don't have many nice words, and the nice words are just rhetoric. Those people may say nice things on the surface, but secretly they may be plotting against you. Oh, you, forget it, your emotional intelligence is too low to talk to you. Chi Hanfan turned his attention back to the screen again. Leighton, is the reliability of your machine guaranteed? Yes, I have played it several times in private, and I can compete with the mass-produced Augustus. If I can replace it with a new frame, I should be able to beat Augustus. But if I replace it with a new frame, it can no longer fit into the shell of the Tiger Hunter, Leighton said with confidence. The military's current mechas, even the customized ones of those ace pilots, cannot match the performance and reliability. This is my comparison. That's natural. You made this thing with your humming money. If the money hadn't been turned into waste paper now, I would have called you a prodigal. Hound complained. But one thing is to say, there are too many of these men in black. They are just pouring out in a steady stream, and those men in black who have been killed will be resurrected if their bodies cannot be burned in time. After resurrection, the monster it has turned into is even more troublesome than the previous human form. If we continue to fight like this, the situation will only become more and more unfavorable, Leighton said with a frown. There are already several places that cannot withstand the pressure. Yvonne took over the words and said, the casualty ratio of the airborne troops has exceeded 30%. Now we must either gather all the troops together to assist Kaylan and the others in their breakthrough, or put in the second batch of airborne troops. Can't concentrate, this won't work. If all the troops are concentrated next to Kaylan and the others, the goal and intention will be too obvious. Hound and Chi Hanfan rejected the first proposal in unison, and the two said after looking at it. The latter continued, "Now we can only use refueling tactics to drop the airborne troops batch by batch, fight a war of attrition with those men in black, and stabilize the position as much as possible. Then break through from multiple directions and find a way to break into the interior of the Ark. In this way, Kaylan and the others can be covered. Secondly, more information can be collected to pave the way for a subsequent general attack. Add fuel tactics." Ivan bit his lip and did not continue speaking. In many non-professional civilian tactics forums, the refueling tactic has always been considered one of the stupidest tactics. The so-called refueling tactic is to divide the troops into multiple small-scale troops and put them into the battlefield in multiple batches. Putting in the next batch after the previous batch is almost consumed is like constantly adding oil to an oil lamp, hence the name. There is another nickname for the Gourd Boy Save Grandpa tactic, which means lining up one by one to give away people's heads. From a literal sense, the refueling tactic is indeed a taboo in the use of troops. In modern war theory, there is a system of differential equations called the Lancaster equation, which is specially used to calculate changes in the strength and combat effectiveness of both warring parties and their impact on the direction of the war. It takes a lot of words to explain this system of equations, but if we want to use the language of the introduction to summarize a conclusion, it is in a limited space and time, concentrate superior forces to cause a decisive blow to the enemy, and continuously accumulating these advantages will lead the entire battle to victory. Even if there is a big gap in the total strength of the two warring parties, such as 1 million versus 500,000, then if these 500,000 people can find a way to take advantage of their own strength on the local battlefield through sneak attacks, ambushes, etc., they can take advantage of it first. Removing some scattered parts of the opponent can have a significant impact on the entire battle, whether it is in terms of troop strength, logistics supplies, position divisions, or army morale. The balance of victory will slowly move towards achieving a small-scale tactical objectives tilt toward that side. When this influence accumulates to a certain extent, quantitative changes will lead to qualitative changes, thus giving birth to the miracle of the weak defeats the strong. For example, the famous Battle of Gwandu during the Three Kingdoms period in the Old Era is a very typical example. But not in all cases, the refueling tactic is a stupid choice. Sometimes, the refueling tactic will become the optimal solution to the combat plan. For example, now, the gap in the energy shield is not very big, and although the ruins platform below is open, many places are tightly blocked by the firepower of the men in black. It requires circuitous interspersion to break through those defense lines and knock out the firepower points. Investing a large number of troops at once will not only fail to take advantage of superior forces to defeat the men in black, but will also prevent the troops from deploying due to limited space, and will be overwhelmed by the opponent's heavy firepower weapons. As the battle situation became tense, the side of the undead crew also began to invest heavy weapons on the battlefield. In addition to the cannon fodder men in black, there were also many giants wearing heavy armor and being more than 10 meters tall. The battlefield. These giants are not like the giants in online games who can only wield sticks and battle axes. Each of them has a 25mm caliber aircraft cannon, and 7 or 8 ammunition chain boxes weighing hundreds of kilograms are just hung on them. On the waistband, there is also a large bundle of rocket launchers carried behind him. It looks like a humanoid tank. After these giants joined the battlefield, the casualties of the airborne troops increased sharply. Several landing positions that had been stabilized were taken back by the enemy. The remaining soldiers could only fight and retreat, slowly moving towards each other. "Get closer. The situation is a little bad," Kaylan whispered. "This is completely opposite to our initial tactical goal." Ian's plan was to disperse all the airborne troops and attack in all directions, centering on the landing point and advancing in all directions. The vacated position behind them can be left for the second batch of airborne troops to deploy. But now the first batch of airborne troops that should have spread out in a radial pattern have been compressed into one piece, and the space for movement is still getting smaller, and they are about to be surrounded by the enemy. Kaylan and the other three did have the strength to break through the encirclement, but if everyone else was suppressed and just the three of them were able to attack with overwhelming force, it would be too conspicuous. Even if the people in the Undead Crew Club were fools, they could still see that there was something wrong with the three of them. What should we do? Are we going back to support friendly forces? Valentina asked. Back in support, Kaylan nodded. Destroy those giants first. The two mechas immediately slowed down their advancement, and soon pretended to be blocked, and began to retreat slowly. The last protruding point of the first batch of airborne troops also shrank back, and the entire landing position was gradually squeezed into a circle. A giant threw away the empty aviation cannon in his hand and ran towards the airborne troops' position with long strides. As he ran, he took off the rocket launcher on his back and pointed in a general direction without aiming. He pulled the trigger, fired every shot and lost one, and in less than half a minute, all the rocket launchers behind him were fired. Of course, there would be no accuracy in fighting like this, but the effect of fire suppression still exists. Under the suppression of rockets, the blocking strength of the airborne troops was greatly weakened. The giant rushed forward despite the rain of bullets, raising his arms high. Then, the fist wrapped in heavy armor fell heavily, and a 4-meter tactical mecha with its armor and man was smashed into a ball of scrap metal mixed with meat. The mecha was destroyed, and the defense line collapsed immediately. The soldiers of the airborne troops were left dragging their injured comrades to fight and retreat. But before they could retreat to the next bunker, the men in black quickly followed. The barrage was covered, and the soldiers without mecha cover fell down one after another like mowing grass. These black-clothed men and giants also have an effect similar to the synergy between infantry and tanks, but this is not because of their high tactical literacy. These black-clothed men are all clones, and many of them even appeared a few hours ago still soaked in a culture tank filled with water of life. Quick finished products have no self-awareness or thinking ability. They completely follow the instructions of the chip. Under the unified dispatch of the Undead Crew Association, these men in black can basically hit wherever they point. Even in some relatively high-end RTS games, the units in them still have factors such as morale and physical strength, and these men in black, as long as the controller gives an instruction, they will immediately rush forward one after another, not caring about life and death. Although the airborne troops, the soldiers, are also very brave, but under the impact of this puppet army, they are still inevitably defeated. People of flesh and blood will be afraid and tired. No matter how powerful the drug is, it is impossible for soldiers to participate in such high-intensity battles for a long time. Many soldiers in the airborne troops have experienced the side effects of drug overdose in advance. He even died suddenly. 30 minutes have passed since the airborne operation began. Less than half of the surviving soldiers of the first batch of airborne troops are left, and of this half, nearly 1/3 are seriously injured and incapable of combat. Because the position was compressed, the second batch of airborne troops could not be placed at the position of the first batch of airborne troops. They could only try to land behind the enemy and try to carry out a pincer attack, but because of the addition of those giants, the second batch of airborne troops had just as soon as they landed, they immediately fell into a hard fight. Only a few troops that successfully merged were still holding on, and the other soldiers who were scattered were quickly killed by the enemy. It's impossible to fight, Leighton gritted his teeth and said, it's better to just let the Skatai attack directly. If you add more fuel now, it will really kill you, and it will be meaningless. Kaylan and the others can't show too much strength, and if they want to hide their strength, they can only be beaten by the opponent. I'm afraid they can't reverse the situation on their own. If they want to break the situation, they can only let the Skatai directly intervene. Fight. The direction of the gap in the energy shield is vertical. The Skatai's current position cannot provide support to the airborne troops. If it wants to attack those black men and giants with firepower, the Skatai must move to the right side of the energy shield gap. Above, close to the trunk of the giant tree for output. However, it is still a mystery whether this giant tree has the ability to attack. No one can guarantee whether the giant tree will suddenly launch an attack after the Skatai approaches. At that distance, the Skatai had no room to react. "Is there any news from Kalan?" Hound asked. "No, ARC's shielding field is still operating. Their communication equipment can only conduct short-distance communication internally at most, and cannot contact us." Chi Hanfan shook his head. "Damn it, we can't think of a solution if that guy Kalan isn't here." The Hound anxiously circled Yagonactor's console like an ant on a hot pot. "Wandering, but I can't get in touch with him, and I don't know if he has changed his original plan. Since he is still hiding his strength, it means that he has no plans to change his plan for the time being." The Hound muttered something in his mouth, and the soles of his feet stamped on the floor with increasing force, and the sound of pap 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 echoed continuously in the control room. At this moment, Zofia Soma, who had been a quiet bystander, suddenly stepped forward, looked up at the battle on the screen, and asked, "These black men and giants are all immortal? Are they puppets of the crew? The undead crew can control them, relying on chips implanted in the brain, right?" "Yeah, wait. Control. Chip," the Hound stopped. "Yes. Since it is controlled by a chip, we can use EMP to attack. P.S. Thanks to Brother Kainyo for the 1,500 starting coins." Alien Relic Hunter author, and Chenmi-san. Chapter 1050. EMP may not be effective. Even the precision electronic equipment distributed by the Field Corps is equipped with protection devices against electromagnetic pulses. Should the undead crew not consider the impact of EMP on the chips in the brains of these puppet soldiers, otherwise, everything will, there is no need for the opponent to use EMP attacks. As long as these puppet soldiers are led to high-intensity radiation areas or places with chaotic magnetic fields, they can win without a fight, Chi Hanfan said. General EMP attacks have no effect. That's just because the power is not enough. Look, I found something good. Layton's voice came from the other side of the console. When everyone heard what he said, they all started talking. Looking at the holographic screen floating on the console, I saw a line of words marked with a highlight special effect in the list of available weapons. High power electromagnetic pulse bomb. High power? How much power do you mean? Chi Hanfan couldn't help but ask. I don't know the exact size, but Yagonactor's control system gave a calculation result. Originally the Star Destroyer cannon could fire one round at 0.2% power, but if this electromagnetic pulse bomb is used, the available power of the Star Destroyer cannon will be reduced sharply to 0.17%, Layton said. Good guy, the power of the Star Destroyer cannon is 0.03%, it's still a non-lethal weapon. The corner of Hound's eye twitched. Isn't this thing enough to burn the chips in those guys' heads? But it will also affect our airborne troops. Those tactical mechas will also be paralyzed, all communications within the team will be disconnected, and even individual missiles controlled by electronic components will not be able to be used. In addition, we also have to make the Skatai cruiser and other our flying units retreat to avoid being affected by pulse bombs. Ivan analyzed. Even if EMP can deal with these black men and giants, the next battle will be different. It's going to be harder. If we don't take action, all the airborne troops will be wiped out. There is no room for us to think about the future, Hound said. The only thing I worry about is that using this electromagnetic pulse bomb will expose Yagonacto in advance. You exist. So, we have to vote on this matter. I agree with its use, Chi Hanfan said, although Yagonactor has turned on the invisibility, but with the methods of the Undead Crew Association, our presence may have been detected, so it doesn't matter whether we are exposed or not. The difference. I agree too. Ivan also raised his hand. Either we are exposed, or Kaylan and the others who were among the first batch of airborne troops are exposed. Whichever is the lesser of two evils. You all agree, then I agree too. Layton looked around the crowd and raised both of his hands. No one objected, and the proposal to use electromagnetic pulse bombs was unanimously approved by the top management of the Hunting God Hunting Group. Layton took a deep breath, held the virtual handle generated by the holographic projection with both hands, and aimed the launch. Aiming at the gap in the Ark's energy shield. The target has been locked, Layton said solemnly. The launcher is being recharged. We will remove the camouflage in 3 seconds. By then, there will be an ultra-high energy reaction at the launch port, and we will become extremely conspicuous on the radar. Send a message to Major General Alexander and ask the Scatty and all air combat units to quickly retreat 5 kilometers. In addition, ask him to send an elite aviation force. I'm worried that the undead crew will cause trouble while we are charging up, said the Hound. After receiving the message, the Scatty began to retreat with numerous transport planes and fighter jets, while the optical camouflage armor on Yagonactor in the distance also began to fluctuate, revealing a vague outline in the sky. Although Yagonactor is not conspicuous in the sky with the naked eye, on the radar map, the starboard position of Yagonactor is like an exploding supernova, with a brightness that exceeds all surrounding stars. This energy reaction is too great. The Hound felt waves of tingling sensations on his skin, and quickly took out the bottle of antiridin, poured out a few pills and swallowed them. The console of Yagonactor is right next to the core power supply array. When the core power supply array is operating, a large amount of radiation will be released. In order to solve this problem, we drove Yagonactor back. After that, the first thing Kaylan did was to spend a lot of manpower and material resources to build an oversized isolation cover for the core energy supply array. But at this time, a dazzling emerald green light emitted from the joint part of the isolation cover. The alloy cover body also began to dissolve, and the temperature and radiation intensity in the entire core area began to rise sharply. Will this isolation cover explode? Hound looked at the precarious isolation cover with some worry. This is the power of 0.03% of the Star Destroyer cannon. As long as it is 100% power, it is estimated that the operator in the core area will it be burned to ashes? What kind of crap did this alpha guy design? How could there be any sense in cramming the bridge and the reactor together? How do I know the design ideas of the alpha people, but from a security perspective, putting the control room and the core function array together changes the Achilles heel of Yagonactor from 2 to 1, making it easier to resist. For an enemy, Layton muttered. Yes, everyone inside the ship has been humming, cooked by the radiation, so naturally there will be no external enemies to deal with. What will we do when the Star Destroyer cannon is activated? Will everyone wear protective clothing? The Hound said with a frown. The protective clothing, I'm afraid it's useless. Layton shook his head. The 0.17% power of the Star Destroyer cannon is enough to melt this isolation cover. At that time, the radiation from the core power supply array will be released without any obstruction. Wearing protective clothing is also a dead end. What should we do? The radiation is too strong and will affect the remote control device. Even if a wired remote control is used, the circuit board will be burned and must be operated manually. Layton paused for a moment before continuing. When the Star Destroyer cannon is started later, you all retreat to ecological block number 1, I will stay and fire. Then you will die. The Hound's face suddenly dropped. Are you willing to die? If we lose this battle, everyone will die. Layton suddenly laughed naively. Also, for a weapons maniac like me, being able to activate a weapon that can destroy a planet with my own hands before death is simply too damning. It's so romantic. This is the way I dream of dying. How do you say it in Chinese idiom? Oh yes, it's called Smiling Nine Rivers. Damn, that idiom is called Smiling Nine Springs. Hound gritted his teeth and cursed. Don't rush to die. The Star Destroyer cannon is only a last resort. It's up to you whether it's necessary or not. How about I stay? Chi Hanfan took a step forward and said. Forget it, if Valentina comes back and finds you missing, what do you think she will think and do? Hound raised his eyebrows. This girl already regards you as her father, you should be better than we all know this. Even if we want to stay, it should be me, an old guy, who stays. Okay, stop arguing. Leighton suddenly raised his voice. If you want to activate the Star Destroyer cannon, I will carry out this task. That's it? Whoever fights with me, don't blame me for falling out. Don't recognize anyone. You guy dash. The Hound wanted to say something else, but this time he was interrupted by Leighton. Old dog, you know me best. You know what I like, don't argue with me this time. Those words are all true and are not meant to fool you. Okay. The Hound stared at Leighton and took a few deep breaths before nodding with difficulty, just as you said. The charging progress of the electromagnetic pulse bomb has reached 80%, and the light and radiation released by the core energy supply array have gradually diminished, but at the same time, the charging speed has slowed down. The charging of this kind of weapon, the energy rate curve, has a similar characteristic to when people charge electronic products. Charging from 0 to 80% to 90% is very fast, but the last half of the charge takes a long time to be fully charged. It will take another 5 minutes to be fully charged. Leighton glanced at the countdown that kept changing slightly on the screen. As soon as he finished speaking, a piercing alarm sounded in the control room. Something has locked onto us, Leighton said urgently. Sure enough, the undead crew will watch helplessly as we charge up our power and use our moves. Activate all external monitors in Yagonactor and find out what's targeting us, the Hound said quickly. Hundreds of holographic screens unfolded in mid-air like scrolls. The images captured by monitors from all angles of Yagonactor were transmitted back to the control room, and about 10 of them had eye-catching colors on the edges. The red light means that the thing that locks Yagonactor is in these 10 pictures. They came down from the tree crown. Chi Hanfan, a sharp-eyed person, said, there are many. They seem to be some kind of mutated insects. It's a bit like the things we encountered in the grey mist forest. The Hound stared at the red-lit screens, but it doesn't seem to be that similar. Where is the support from the Sci-Fi? We have arrived at the predetermined coordinates and are reorganizing to prepare for the attack, Leighton replied. Dozens of fighter jets soon appeared on these screens. They raised their noses to an angle that was almost perpendicular to the ground and flew toward the tree canopy directly above. Monsters that are not insects. These fighter jets had just participated in the battle to attack the energy shield, and the consumed missiles had not had time to return to the mothership for replenishment. The only weapons they could use were live fire cannons and laser weapons equipped on a few models, facing the dense swarm of insects. The killing efficiency of these weapons suddenly seemed to be a drop in the bucket. No, the fighter jets can't stop these bugs. Let all the fighter jets retreat and let the Sci-Fi provide fire support. Don't worry about accidentally hurting us, just hit the damn bugs with maximum power, Hound shouted. However, before the retreat order was issued, the fighter jets of the Survivor Alliance were already in close contact with the insect swarm. The two were moving in the opposite direction, and both were traveling at maximum speed. The distance of tens of thousands of meters was almost instantaneous, and the sky more than a dozen dazzling sparks suddenly burst out. It was a self-destruction. The pilots of those fighter jets detonated the power furnace themselves. They shot out their own planes as the last missile. Chi Hanfan's words had a tremor in them, which he always said on weekdays. The middle-aged man's eyes with a straight face had turned red at this time, and he had to hold back the tears from rolling down. They are using their lives to delay us. Yvonne murmured, even if they eject at the moment before self-destruction, facing this number of insect swarms, it will be difficult to survive. Not all the fighter jets that rushed forward chose to self-destruct. Some of the flying mechas transformed into humanoid shapes after crashing into the insect swarm. The energy shield was directly pulled to the maximum power, and they rampaged through the insect swarm like a fireball. The individual strength of these insect monsters is not very strong. If they are touched by the energy shield, they will be roasted to character. But there are too many of them, and more than a dozen flying mechas rush into the insect swarm. The damage it can cause is too insignificant compared to the overall number of insects. The swarms of swooping insects were still accelerating, and their speed was even faster than the speed of their dead companions falling freely. As a result, a strange scene appeared in the sky. The living bugs were rushing downwards, and the dead bugs were rushing downwards. Instead, the wreckage was thrown behind. If you look at it from top to bottom, it seems as if the wreckage is suspended in the air. Where is the fire support from the Sci-Fi? Let them hurry up, the hounds have switched to roaring mode. The swarm of insects is only the last 10,000 meters away from Yagonactor. At their speed, it is almost in the blink of an eye, you'll hit Yagonactor. Although Yagonactor also has an energy shield, there may be a limit to the energy shield. If these bugs clump together and crash in, although the outermost layers of bugs will be directly vaporized, the bugs in the middle layer will also be vaporized. They were roasted into charcoal, but the bugs in the innermost part of the sphere were able to survive. Once they get close to the launch port of the electromagnetic pulse bomb, the consequences would be disastrous. Just as the roar of the hounds echoed in the control room, two thick laser beams shot straight from the direction of the Scatty cruiser, sweeping across the air. Suddenly, the sky covered by dense insect swarms became one clear blow. This blow killed at least 70% of the bugs. Rear Admiral Alexander received news that the core component of the Sci-Fi's laser launcher has melted down due to the previous attack. It will take at least 15 minutes to replace the core component and recharge. They cannot fire a second shot. Layton turned to the Hound and said, "Then send out our own air combat troops. Don't let the remaining bugs get close to the launch port at all costs," said the Hound. "Old dog, all the air combat troops have been transferred to the Scatty, and only a part of the logistics personnel are left on the Yagonactor," Layton said with a queasy look on his face. P.S. Thanks to book friend 202008011304081115 for the 500 starting coins.